after hours for law enforcement missions that George gets dragged into that as well in the dead of night sometimes, and is always super responsive.
I like better than standing out in the snow in front of a gunfight.
So George,
It's been very helpful.
John put together an RFP this morning for those canopies. You want to look that over, and then I'll look at it too. But
and I've got another copy.
we talked about we've been talking about some canopies to cover our equipment so they don't get worn out from the sun. And there's a company locally that's a dealer for these canopies. They go on a 40 by 40 container. They're a high arch. I think they have like a 13-foot rise in the middle, 40-foot long. They're really awesome. Pretty reasonable. We talked about getting 2 for George's equipment, 1 for Bruce to cover his salt pile. On that, we just pour a 8-inch walls, 8 feet high, 40 feet U-shaped walls with footings and a floor, and then he'd put his salt in there so it doesn't, so it protects it from the weather. It doesn't just bleed all over. And then we talked about one for Ryan Riddle to put his equipment in. So we're looking at 4 of those. And I think you need 1 more high boy.
I've got three high boy Connexes right now, and I just ordered another one. So
I think they're a little bit more available right now. There for a while, it was hard to get them, but they're a little better.
Well,
and the prices come down a little bit too. They were really high there when.
Well, and the price is still not
great.
Not great, but yeah, they're unloading a lot more ships at Long Beach and Port of Los Angeles, so there's more Connexes being emptied into warehouses. So
I had a question about so we talked about doing one for our personal use, that same type of a system, but we put our 4-wheelers in them, and we wondered about putting the system over the top
Canopy.
and going to the outside of the Connex, because then it covers the Connex, because they get really hot in there. And I don't know. I mean, it makes
You'd lose 16 feet of storage.
Yes. So if you only needed a couple of those for heat sensitive, you maybe could put one on that way. You'd have to modify them just a hair.
The brackets, because
they're designed
to go in this way, not the outside.
Yeah. So, but that's something to think about. I don't know whether that's a problem for any of your
most of my
equipment.
A lot of my equipment is fairly big. I mean, I've got a 34-foot command trailer. I've got those 2 hand washing stations that are fairly good size trailers. And the light sets are fairly small. Matter of fact, the light sets could probably go inside one of the Connexes.
And now they'd be fine with the heat and cold.
Yeah, they're. I mostly I want to keep them out of the rain, the snow, the wind, the sand, and all that. I'm more worried about that kind of damage on that equipment than I am any other kind of damage.
We looked at possibly putting these just east of Ryan Riddle's, the old shop, against that fence, so that you want those facing east or west, so the wind, that southern wind, hits them to the side, and doesn't blow through them. So.
There is an issue with that area.
The
city is wanting to do that sweep.
They still want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're talking about putting another lane in there. They talked
about it the other day.
Yeah. So got to talk to the city engineer.
I didn't. Okay.
So, I had plans to talk to the city engineer and see where they were at on that.
They might not need, I don't know how far they need to go north. They may not need, because we're already holding it back from the corner where it starts to angle. So we got to talk to them and see what they need.
Well,
Rich Wilson had diagrams of the different curves that they may want. And so
if we have
that
to push
is
those
something.
Too far north, it starts impeding the gas pump where you pull through there. So we'd have to put them on the north side, but the fence jogs right there. I'm not sure why that fence jogs. It might be the road. The property line was too close to the road. But anyway, we need to coordinate with Bruce and all those guys and see where we can put them.
Well, and quite frankly, I don't know that the city really wants to do that, because they've had some bad luck with that that corner anyway already. They
Well,
had
that
somebody
was just
take
a
out one
bad
of their cows.
driver that
so
took out the cow and the sheep.
took out the cow and the sheep. So
Which they're at our shop getting fixed.
So I'm not sure how they're going to do that. The only other thing with property, and Bruce and Justin and I were talking about that this morning, an ideal area to put the sand and the sandbags and the sand bag filler is right there on that land that they've cleared, that Bruce cleared for the search and rescue. But my understanding is that land doesn't belong to the county. It actually belongs to Search and Rescue as a corporation, and so I'm gonna have to negotiate with them to see if I can set up my stuff on there.
The other thing, if they bring that sweep around, we probably will have to move our gate down to that area. Bruce and I talked about that too, because you'll be looking back like this, so that would be a better spot because that's a straightaway. So that's another issue that we'll have to look at, because if they do that, we may want to move that gate back.
Well,
to the west.
Then we may have to do a lot of negotiating with Search and Rescue then.
I don't know. Yeah, but that is an issue, and before we do anything, we better coordinate with the city to see if they for sure want that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
All right. Wade with Fleet.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. So kind.
Well, good morning. So my budget this year overall is on track, so we're actually under budget. 2022 we came under budget overall. Vehicles that we ordered in 2021, we finally received everything excluding the diesel trucks. And I've actually got those ordered again, so figured something out. They're gonna the order again. We think we're gonna get it this time, so third time's a charm. Supply chain. So we've been having a hard time getting parts for some of our older vehicles. It's just been a mess. So we've had to rob Peter to pay Paul and move vehicles around and stuff like that, trying to keep the sheriff's department in vehicles. The new fleet program that we just got, been working on it, trying to get it going, get all the vehicles put in, get all the necessary data put in there so we can set triggers and reminders for services and tire rotations, stuff like that. It's working real well. And we've about got it completed. Service and repairs have been up. I've been super busy. A lot of it's just the older vehicles that we've had to fix, and then there's some examples there of stuff that we've had to do. Vehicle sales, we've been moving forward with that, just putting a few on at a time as time allows, and that's been going real well too. So we've been getting some pretty good.
We getting good
Prices.
Getting good prices off of it too. So
Good.
well, if you've seen that snowcat we put on there, and that's what I'd like to find out, to see what we actually paid for that thing. But I think we paid we got $16,000 out of it. So
Wow.
I figured it would go pretty good, but.
Yeah, that's good.
Building maintenance. So the removal of the floor in there, the old floor lift that we're removing, so we can put the other lift in. We awarded that to Curtis DeMille Jr., and so he's been working on that the last few days, and should have that probably done by the end of this week or first of next week, I'm thinking.
that going okay?
Yeah.
Getting that lift out and everything.
He's got to let out. It was a little thicker than 8 inches though, and some of that it was 12 inches thick.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, so
You have to use
Wow.
dynamite, did he?
foot center rebar on there too, so it was pretty
oh wow.
sturdy. So he's got it pulled out. We're gonna try to pull that old lift out today.
How did he break that out?
Jackhammer.
He earned his money there.
I
Huh?
think he's big and strong.
Yeah, he
So-
is.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. So, let's see, lights. So we ordered lights for the building, and it's going to benefit the weeds, the signs, and the fleet. So it's pretty dim in those bays.
You'll love those lights.
So-
They'll
Are they
double
LED?
your-
Yeah,
It'll double your.
Nice.
They're amazing.
it's pretty hard to see in there,
They're awesome.
but with not many windows and that. But we're doing the rebate program with Rocky Mountain Power, so that'll save us money that way, and also on the power bill as well. So.
Good.
And then we've been assisting the sheriff's department the last week or so with retrieving stolen vehicles. So we've got that car hauler trailer. We've been able to go out and help them and retrieve some of that stuff and save the county some money. It's pretty expensive.
To have somebody come in and tow it, huh?
So other than that, things pretty much the same and going well. So you guys have any questions?
So we've got all the vehicles, the new ones we ordered. Now we're
20
caught
and
up
21.
just for 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we ordered them in 21 for 22, so we're actually behind about a year
Okay.
with what we'd planned. So
Is it starting to loosen up for 22, or I mean?
we've
for
got stuff.
24?
I've got everything ordered for this year. It's ordered.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we get it, we'll be catching up.
Okay.
But as far as just going in and ordering something, I mean, those order banks only open at certain times now, and so it's just kind of, we have to kind of wait at their will to get anything else ordered. But so
Very good.
okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks, Wade.
Sweet.
Thank you.
All right, commission reports. Who wants to go first? Mike?
Sure. We have worked on the new sheriff's complex and jail a lot. We've been super busy with that, all of us. Had an opportunity to do McKinnon Hanson's radio show. She likes to have the commissioners on there, at least somebody quarterly. I was shanghaied the night before into doing it, but that's not a big deal. It's always fun to do. That show had an opportunity to talk about the jail as well, and had some really positive feedback through the show and through her with that. Tourism Advisory Board met a couple of weeks ago and heard all of proposals for this year's TRT grants. I'm glad to see Becky walk in. That was so timely. Had an opportunity to attend an event at Cedar City Hospital last week in recognition of Colon Cancer Awareness Month. They were able to bring in a giant inflatable colon.
I saw pictures of it.
I contemplated wearing a poop emoji hat as I walked through, but my wife wouldn't let me. That's what it really boils down to. She's like, those people are the people I work with. Knock it off. But according to Instagram, it was very successful. I didn't post any pictures, but maybe I will. Had an opportunity to speak at the Republican Women meeting. That again, the theme of the meeting was human trafficking. Had a couple of different experts on human trafficking come and speak. It was really enlightening. I got to speak about the resources that we have through the Children's Justice Center. Again, our
were all
Children's
gone.
Justice staff were all gone to a child abuse conference, and so I don't know if I was shanghaied into that. I gladly would do that, but it was a good opportunity to talk about the resources that we have at the Children's Justice Center. The Chamber Gala, yearly Chamber Gala, was this last week. I sit on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. That was good. If anybody had the opportunity to attend, all of the table decorations were built by Danny Stewart and I, and a couple of other people. We had some oversight from more crafty people that said do this, this, and this, but we actually, built the table. We put a speaker in the middle of our table and listened to Van Halen, so as to keep our man cards intact a little bit. But It was a good time. That event recognizes excellence in the community, and it was a really good night. Just want to congratulate Southern Utah University women's basketball, or the WAC champions. Move on to the big dance, which their first round in the NCAA tournament is against Notre Dame in Indiana on St. Patrick's Day. So we will wish them well. The men
two of
also.
my kids will be there.
What's that?
Two of my kids will be there. Yeah, they're
That's
in the
awesome.
band.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. The men also went to the final game, the championship game of the WAC. Came out a little short against Grand Canyon University, but there hasn't been an SUU team go to the NCAA tournament since 2001. So,
Wow.
really cool. Yeah, they did a great job. So shout out to them. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to tell Mike, thank you I'm on that board for the Republican Women's, and it really was a great event. We had a good turnout. We had it at the Fiddler's Fun Center, and it was a great venue, and they was able to show little videos and that type of thing, and it was really good. On the first, we had our cities and county coordination of government meeting, and we talk a lot about, we have UDOT there, we talk a lot about the different challenges that we have on roads, and with UDOT, and that's always an interesting one. On March 1st, last weekend, Mayor Green had a dinner talking about water and agriculture. It was very good. Got a little heated just a couple of times, not too bad, but I have been so involved with the agriculture community, and we just have to remember that is their livelihood. And when they talk about water and that we're going to take their water away, that's their livelihood. And so you can imagine how involved they are in that discussion. So it was good, and the mayor's doing a lot of the biggest thing is that we've got to work together. That's the huge thing, that we've just got to work together to make this work, because we do have those water challenges in our basin. Every Wednesday we've been meeting and talking about the sheriff's complex with the architect, and that's been really interesting. Last Wednesday we got into a little bit more depth than we have before. It was interesting seeing the jail folks talk to the architect and the things that they need, and how they were working through that process. I thought that was really interesting and an important part of what we're doing with the sheriff's complex. On the 8th, we had a little meeting with the commissioners and the engineer and the zoning, and we're talking about the Iron Springs Road. Chris Stewart has some appropriations for monies, and we're trying to get that put in. Richard Wilson, our engineer, and Reed Erickson are working on getting all that information put together, and comments and letters to hopefully we can tap into a little bit of that money, because that's a huge issue in our with the inland port going forward. I had a Zoom meeting with Stephen Lisenby and Mike Maurer from Governor Cox's office. They check with us every once in a while. the main thing that came out of that was the governor is going to come, and I think this is probably a go. We haven't heard for positive, but they said the governor wanted to come April 3rd to Parowan and have a town hall. And then they asked me about the fairgrounds and our beautiful fences that we did so much work last summer. And I think we're going to get the governor over there to talk about that. And they were pretty impressed when I told them that was a totally donated, all of the fences and the material and the labor on that was all donated, not any cost to the county. Which will be kind of fun to maybe have the governor come down and check those out. We worked really hard last summer on those fences, so I think that's it.
Thank you. I have a few things. I was in Salt Lake over the weekend and actually had a couple calls with a couple of the committee members, board members on the CIB board, and just to ask them what was some of our options for jail funding, and received some information. Talked to one of the admin in the CIB, and she gave me some dates and different things we need to be aware of, and I communicated those with Luke. I think we're going to maybe meet after and talk a little bit about the jail. I was able to attend the Community Development Block Grant board meeting in Salt Lake this last week. That was really a good meeting. Our 5-county gets roughly $1 million a year for projects. The most you can apply for with any one project is $350,000. But as everybody that's worked in that process knows, it's very stringent, very complicated requirements. If you miss one word, as we've learned, John, in the public hearings, we have to read them word for word. If you miss one word, you can be kicked out. But we kind of I communicated by text with some of those involved in that. Just some things, just some tricks that there's a Cody Christensen that's new with 5 County. Has been really helpful and with that process. So they'll fund. I called the mayor of Paraguna, and I was going to reach out to the water district or water board in Newcastle. They're both in desperate need of some new water systems, and talk to them about possibly applying for some of that money, because those are high on the list for infrastructure. We met in our steering committee last week. Gil Almquist from Washington County Commission, their behavioral health, or their receiving center is pretty much complete. They are having problems with supply chain issues with their air conditioner units. And so those probably won't be here for a couple of months, so it could get a little warm in there as they start to use that facility. That is available to us. It's just a little bit of an issue to transport people down there for the use, but that's open to Iron County to use if we need it. It'll be an awesome facility. In our steering committee, I was very grateful to the committee. We kind of did an emergency request for the CDBG funding for that fire truck in Newcastle, and I think what was that? I think it was about $380,000, wasn't it? And we matched. So the county's matching $380,000, and CDBG approved. It was touch and go. I wasn't sure whether they would, because it comes off, the amount that was approved comes off next year's allocation. But I was very grateful to that committee for supporting Iron County and funding that fire truck. So we'll have that fire truck plus the one that's being funded with Mike FEMA in Burrell, right? And so,
and I'd just like to say I appreciate Commissioner Cousins and Ryan Riddle. There's been some exceptional efforts, and I think the level of service that we'll be able to provide out in the Escalante Valley will be greatly improved.
Oh yes,
thanks to those efforts. So thank you.
Well, and Ryan just went above and beyond. I mean, he took these grants are extremely complicated, and Ryan took 2 weeks of his vacation last week to write that grant, and so he's just been a hero with like John said, providing better service for that area out there.
Yeah, he's done a lot of cleanup out there. It was kind of a mess, and he's done a lot of work out there, and we really do appreciate Ryan Riddle.
I've been driving. I still have 6 inches of mud on my personal truck. I've been driving around looking for places to put water. I talked to Staker Parsons, and we had a meeting with Cedar City. So the Western Rock Pit, which is about 12 acres, where we've recharged a lot of water, we put about 9,000 acre-feet in 2019 in that pit. Cedar City owns the pit to the south, which is almost the same size, and we had a meeting last week with Cedar City and Staker Parsons. They've always been really good, and that's the parent company of Western Rock Products. They've been good to support us over the years with our recharge projects. They actually purchased Phil Schmidt's gravel pit and property, and they've continued to help us and allow us to recharge in that pit. But we've talked about them moving to another location to mine gravel and allowing us to use that south pit. We don't know if that can take place this year, but we had a great productive discussion on ways to mitigate if the water. What happens is when we put a lot of water in that north pit, it starts to seep under the dam and affects their mining operations. And so we talked about ways to pump that out, and maybe for this year just to get by, because we're going to have so much opportunity to put water in the aquifer. So that was positive. John put together an RFP this morning. There's a company called Phase Concrete locally that's a dealer for these canopies. We talked about that with George, looking at 4 of those. We just got to get a lot of our equipment out of the sun so it doesn't just destroy it. So then those are really reasonable, and I think it'll be a great asset to help with those issues. One last thing, we had a good inland port call. Was able to make some comments there, and we've got a great leadership, Ben Hart and his board in moving that forward, and Commissioner Blake's worked on that a lot. It's they're really high in Iron County. We're shovel ready, and it's been an exciting process to see that go. So that's all I have. Anything else before we break? We'll go ahead and take a break and reconvene at 10 o'clock.
That's the SU one.
Good.
This one's got an issue. Formatting.
Whoops, that doesn't look good. I don't know what that deal is.
Botched it.
That one's okay.
What's that?
Yeah, there might be one in that room.
Are we set, John?
Sorry, yeah. Mike, did you need?
Jeannie's taking care of me. There was just a formatting error on that one letter.
Carrot.
No, that's why I say one's all Chueco, but the other one, there should be
Oh.
another one that's fixed.
Oh, okay.
You and I are going to have a discussion about margins later.
Yeah, I fought that and then gave up.
I get it. I just had to give you a hard time.
You know, if it's all right, I'll just PDF this on my phone right now and just email it to him in PDF format, if that's all right. Now that we all wrote our name
It
on
is,
it.
if you're asking me, it is. Yeah.
Oh no, that's the plan, and then I'll take him the original later.
That's perfect. All right, Commissioner, it's going.
All right, we'll go ahead and resume our Iron County Commission meeting and welcome those who have joined us since our 9 o'clock meeting. We'll start with agenda item number 1, which is a public hearing, discussion, and approval of Iron County Jail facility site location and property purchase. And I've asked Commissioner Blake if he would begin this discussion and talk about maybe some of the history of this process and go from there.
Well, welcome everybody. This has been an ongoing project ever since I've been in the commission. I've been here about 6 years now. This discussion was going on prior to my being elected to the commission. We have looked at, I'll just speak to the last 6 years. We've looked over, I don't know how many properties. We've found properties that we thought were a good fit. Then for one reason or another, they weren't. Whether it's logistically, whether it's price, whether it's the cost of infrastructure. We have spent a long time on this process. Really in earnest, it's been the last year and a half where we've actually really drilled down on looking at different pieces of property as well as different design options. So I'm gonna bottle this up pretty short, but we started looking in earnest at specific properties over a year ago. We found, and it's been interesting because we have found a couple of different pieces of property that we thought might be a good fit, and moved forward on those pieces of property to go down that road. In each case, specifically 2 different pieces of property, we ran into a couple of different hurdles, either whether the soils weren't good, whether it just wasn't a good fit for the community in that area, whatever those may be. And when we started to run into those hurdles on those specific pieces of property, at that point, other pieces of property became available that weren't prior to that. They weren't options when we first started looking at those things. And we moved on, and that's what happened with this current piece of property that we were looking at. And when we looked at this, we've had a lot of public input over the last year. One of the things that was suggested to us is that we have more community involvement when looking at specific pieces of property. So I don't even remember what it was, over the spring and summer, we had 2 or 3 different options that we were looking at. we convened a committee, and that committee was appointed and put together by the county commission. There were about 25 members of that committee. Those committee members came from law enforcement, economic development, some local business leaders, representation from Cedar City, the Cedar City Council. Mayor Green was on that committee. But we also reached out into neighborhoods of the areas, the proposed areas that we were looking at. A representation from Fiddler's Canyon, representation from the Equestrian Point area, the representation from the Cove area. We really felt like we had a pretty well-rounded committee. In those committee meetings, we looked at different options, whether we looked at design options, we looked at property location options, and ultimately, the committee recommended that we focus on one area, and that's the area where we've looked. It's the industrial park area, kind of off of Airport Road, down behind. There are several construction companies along there. Borders the rail behind the IFA fertilizer plant. Ultimately, that's where we landed. Between our committee, our staff with the Iron County Jail staff, the Sheriff's Department, as well as representatives from law enforcement, from all of the law enforcement agencies in Iron County, it was determined that was really our best site. The soils are good. It's in an area that's already in an industrial park, an industrial zone. There are no immediate adjacent residential areas. So at that point, and through this whole process, we've been engaged with both an architect and a construction company. Those were chosen by RFP this last year. We went with Babcock Designs, who really has been involved in the design of every correctional facility, sheriff's complex, and local county jail in Utah. And Layton Construction was the one that won the bid, the general contractor that won the bid. They've also been have a really lengthy history in building sheriff's complexes and correctional facilities, and so that's kind of where we are. The point of this hearing. So leading up to today's discussion, we've had 3 previous public hearings and public meetings to specifically speak about this piece of land. I'll tell you, that's the topic of conversation today. We have a general design for the facility, but that is still very fluid. We're meeting with our architect and design team as well as construction team on a weekly basis at this point to make sure that we've got everything in place that we need to when it comes to this. So that's kind of the history leading up to this point.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any comments, Commissioner Wood, at this point?
No, I think it's a really good location. I participated in the committee that Mike put together, and I feel really good about this location. So.
With that, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. I know there's some probably here that would like to speak to this topic, so if you could approach the microphone and state your name, and if we can keep the comments, as brief as possible.
Good morning. My name is Rob O'Brien. I am a resident of Iron County and Cedar City. We're active in our community. My wife and our neighbors are here with us today. We participate in community activities. We are members of the Rotary Club, along with Mr. Cousins, Mayor Green, and Sheriff Carpenter. We also are volunteers for the Cedar City Police Department. We moved here from Chicago, and what attracted us was the community, the law and order, the behavior of the community, and we are glad to be here. To be honest with you, I was blindsided by this location. I understood from last year around election time that the placement of the jail, was pretty much decided to be up near the current location. I know that was a hotly debated subject during the county commissioner election, and the last I'd heard of it was that it was going to be up in that area. Mr. Bleak, I had a number of questions I wanted to ask. How did this come to be? And you answered some of them.
Okay.
I was advised that group, the committee that was put together, 25 members, predominantly either Iron County employees or Cedar City employees, and there was 3 residents of those communities that you spoke of.
Oh, there were many more citizens. There were more citizens than county government or city officials on that panel.
Was there any member of the community that you're talking about part of that committee?
Which community?
Where this jail is being proposed for currently?
Yeah, Equestrian Point area, which is directly to the west, the Cove subdivision, which is directly to the south.
Okay.
There were representation from both of those communities.
We try to be aware of what's going on in the community, and as I say, I was alerted of this through Facebook last Thursday. So either I've got my head in the sand, which is possible, or this hasn't really been on the radar screen. I spoke with city officials here who are in the know, and without divulging their name, I was informed that there was a hearing previously that even a leader in the community they weren't aware of. So my personal sense is that this is being held intentionally off the radar screen. That may or may not be true. Some of the questions I had is the selection process you've outlined in your overview, Mr. Bleak. The awareness of public information, how has that been communicated? You cited that there was 3 public awareness hearings about this proposed site. How was that communicated to the community?
I think, let me defer to John.
Okay, so we use the public notice website, which is pmn.utah.gov. This particular hearing was put on the radio. We use social media. We actually have our own website that we put them on. We don't send up smoke signals, but we do quite a bit. And Commissioner Cousins was actually concerned about the previous hearing. We had met the legal requirement, but we wanted to advertise a little bit better, and so we actually went ahead and scheduled today's hearing and spent some money on the radio, social media, our website, and the public notice website.
Thank you.
As well as when we email that out, we send that to TV stations. Like I've got a standard list of press people to whom that goes.
Thank you. You mentioned, Mike, in your comment that you wanted more community involvement, so there's been some advertising. My awareness, and I'm not sure that I am vastly different from the majority of the community, we do try and stay engaged and involved and participate. Everyone that I've spoken to in our community since learning of this Thursday, not one person had any awareness of it. So maybe we live in a neighborhood that no one pays attention. Could be. You also mentioned, I think, Mr. Cousins, at the beginning, you said that the intent was to review and approve this. So that suggests to me that the land has already been purchased, the decision's already been made, and all we're doing today is checking the box saying that we did have a public hearing. Is that true?
Well, can I address that?
Sure.
So at this point, we have made an offer on the land. And I don't mean to sound callous, but this is where we're at. At this point, this is purely an administrative decision on the part of the commission. Legally, we're not required to have a public hearing. We're not required to have any public meetings, but we've opted that that's not the way that we want to interact with our community. We've had 3 different nights. We've had
more than that.
We've had more than that. Within the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 evening meetings and a daytime meeting, and this is our 4th meeting on this issue.
Is that an internal meeting, or is that
Oh,
where
these
the
are public.
public
These are public
participates?
meetings that were advertised in the same manner
Public hearings.
that Mr. Whitaker. They were advertised as public hearings. We did have attendance at each one of those meetings, each one of those hearings, and we did receive public input from each one of those meetings. I mean, we've said that we're going to be open and just as transparent as we can on this issue, as well as really any other issue that we address. At this point, we've moved forward on this position. A public hearing's not required, but we want to have input.
Thank you, and I'd like to offer some.
Please.
Please do.
Is the meetings that you've had previously, is the attendance similar to the attendance here today?
I'd say yes.
Okay, so you got 25 people here today, half of which are Iron County employees. So that, to me, suggests that the awareness, either the people in the community don't care, which I absolutely don't believe, or the awareness is low. Because I think if the people were aware, they would participate. In the fact that you got a decision of this magnitude and you got 15 non-employees in the hearing, I would consider that as a professional businessman. That's an indication that you didn't communicate effectively. Just an observation. Has there been an economic impact study done?
Our economic development, what's the word I'm looking
Person.
for? Person, director that works, that represents both Iron County and Cedar City, has been involved in this process from the beginning.
So when we moved here, Cedar City's got a sign as you enter the city. It says Festival City, or the Festival City USA. So just imagine that. I can't imagine the Chamber of Commerce, who advocates the community of the parks, which is, again, one of the reasons that we moved here. The first thing is the visitors arrive at the airport, they're going to get off that airplane and look and see a jail. Does that make sense to you?
They're going to see a business building. They're going to see a building that looks like a professional business building. They're not going to see concertina wire. They're not going to see towers. They're not going to see dogs. They're going to see a building that looks like an office building. And let me speak as a board member from the Chamber of Commerce.
Or Cedar of City?
For Cedar City, Iron County, as well as the surrounding area. It's called the Big Chamber that represents the 5 counties. Chris McCormick, our director, our CEO, has been intimately involved in all of these discussions and has in fact attended most of these public meetings, and the Chamber of Commerce is in complete support.
Thank you. I understand that Iron County now owns that property. Is that correct?
No.
Who owns the property?
It's an LLC. The property's under contract. A couple of meetings ago, the commissioners voted to make an offer on the property. Before the contract is perfected, they wanted to have one more public hearing.
So my question is, who are the
Anticipated
beneficiaries
closing
of this decision? There's going to be a financial gain by whoever owns that. You say it's an LLC. Who's involved with that LLC?
I don't know that we're at liberty to say. What do you think, Sam?
I would wait until we close, and then you can find that out via the grandma process.
Is it the old story? You can always push through the smoke, follow the money. So I think as a community member, I think it'd be, if it's legally allowed, I think it'd be interesting to the community residents to know who's going to benefit from this land buy.
Yeah. So I think it's important to note several things. One, there were multiple sites listed, and yes, property values at a premium now. Any one of those folks would have benefited greatly. Two, I can say that, and I know them personally. It's an old Cedar City family, and it was at one time a farm. It's been kind of left as it's an island of unincorporated county at this point, and it was kind of carving in against it, and so I think pressures were high. I think I can go ahead.
Well, no, that's not quite accurate. I mean, it's kind of accurate. The current property was actually purchased by an industrial company.
Yeah.
It's been agricultural land that's been with an old Cedar City family for generations, I assume. That property was purchased from I don't know what to call them. They're an industrial company.
LLC.
Our negotiations and everything that we have dealt with have been directly with that company through their realtor. They're not a local company, and they're not anyone that was on our radar. We had never met. I'd never even heard of them prior to these discussions. Like, we can say that much.
Yeah.
Can I
I would ask,
ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you attend any of our other meetings a year ago, or watched any of those online, or?
I was
Yeah.
aware of that at that time, and I was peripherally involved. And honestly, I thought this decision was done and made, and that the jail was going to be located near proximity to the current location. It was off my radar screen. I was on to other things in the community, and we're proud of this community. We love living here, and we want to do what we think is right for the community for the long run. We've moved from places that are not as desirable as Cedar City. So we want to do everything we can to keep it the gem that it is, which is why we're here today. This feels, and again, this is an emotional statement, I hope to be fact-based. We don't think it makes sense to place a jail in the area where there's rapid growth. Mr. Bleak, you mentioned that it's farm community. Virtually everything in that valley at one time was a farm. If you look at all the homes that are going up, we can't go to the east because there's a hill in the way. So you go west, and you go south, and there's north. So this jail that we're proposing, the site and the location, while today it's kind of on the edge of town, I would say at the rate that we're building today, it won't be 5 years, and that's going to be the center of Cedar City. Does that make sense for the center of town to have an icon being a jail? Just a question.
It's important that we have it close to the hospital and to the courts and those entities. So that was one of the reasons why we went to a commercial area, because we felt like the homes were not close. That's what
Today.
some of the others. But that is all.
There will never
around
be any homes
there'll never
closer
be homes
to
there.
to that area than they are today. I mean, it's built up around that area.
And the
I mean, it's
airport
gonna
will never
expand
go
from
anywhere
there, but-
either. The airport's not moving.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the area. We live on the hill right up above it. So we won't be able to see it visually because there's another ridge between us and the line of sight, but it's just around the corner. We live up just south of Cody Drive.
Can I speak to about 3 inferences that happen? And it's a natural thing for people to be nervous about. So this is our site. If you look up at the screen, right, and you live here in the cove somewhere, and this is the proposed site.
We actually live south of where you indicated.
Oh,
We-
even further south.
we're
Okay.
South of the temple.
Okay. So one is that when we say jail, in fact, we've had kittens over, like, how to even talk about this facility. Do we call it a jail? Do we call it a correctional facility? Do we call it a what? And look, county jails are mandated by state code that the sheriffs operate.
I'm 100% behind that.
But-
Absolutely supportive of it.
But
I
the
think
inference is this, that it's somehow like a state prison or a supermax facility. That's not what it is. In fact, I just want to, and I pulled it up, and I bumped back because of the conversation. I'm just going to, the model that we've kind of looked at, and this builder and architect have built before. Let's see.
In Uintah County.
In Uintah County. So this is Vernal. So this is the facility right there in Uintah County, and it's actually it's they have several agencies that are co-housed there. Not only the sheriff, but the I believe they have highway patrol. They have courts there.
I think courts.
And so what happens is all of those employees are in this is a little bit more of an industrial area, similar to what we're looking at. But every time there's a booking, and one of the conversations we had early on was, hey, let's put this thing out at Iron Springs out by the dump. And law enforcement said, listen, that's a long ways. It's a long ways for every commute for a shift. It's a long ways for every booking. it would leave Bryan Head unpoliced for several hours because of the distance. And so it's a real balancing act to find a location. And I just wanted to kind of counter that notion that there's a difference between a jail and a supermax facility, because look, jails are often in neighborhoods. The previous location was downtown Cedar, right on the grid, before this location. And I would remind everyone that Iron County in the 80s was sued because of the squalid conditions in that facility, and we need to improve the conditions for the inmates that we have now.
Just for the record, I want to be clear. I absolutely 100% stand behind law enforcement, law and order, Sheriff Carpenter, Chief Adams. We stand by you, and we support having a new facility. I think the facility that exists currently is in need of replacement, and as a taxpayer, as a citizen, I'm on board. The question that I have is, do you feel as representatives of Iron County that this has been adequately, legally, and correctly communicated to the residents what's taking place right behind us?
Again, I would reiterate that this is an administrative decision. I laud the commissioners for not just moving forward, but they've sought public comment for well over a year, and there have been at least 7 different sites.
For different locations, not
You bet.
specifically
You bet.
for this one.
You
You admitted yourself this is brand new. This is new on the radar screen. So
The interesting thing, too, is some of the folks that had opposed the other sites were on our committee with us, and they have actually realized through the education process that we've gone through that you've got a more safe community by having the sheriff's department right there coming and going.
I think most people, myself included, are supportive of this, but the old syndrome is, I want it, but I don't want it in my backyard.
Right.
So I imagine the people
Get
that
that.
were on that committee were relieved that it wasn't going to be in their backyard. So I'll leave you. This is a question I just question. Has there been any communication to the LDS Church about the location of this prison? Any?
It's a jail. It's a county jail, not a prison.
Not
Question stands.
and not officially. No,
We haven't even closed on the property yet.
But
But with the intent to approve today at the close of this meeting, an offer's been made. So the intent is this is a done deal. So I just leave you with a
well,
thought.
and that's not even, that wouldn't be appropriate. Why would we reach out to the LDS Church over any other church, over the Catholic
Or
Church,
the
or
residents.
Presbyterians,
Or the residents.
or any other organization in the community? So it would not be appropriate for us to reach out to the LDS Church for their opinion on
That's
this
a fair
matter.
answer.
I'm not sure the church, there's a church right across the railroad
I'm-
tracks.
Mr. Blake, I think your
Yeah.
response is appropriate and correct. Thank you. I would suggest that we probably will be notaries for, in Iron County, we'll have the only temple within walking distance of a jail, and perhaps in the state of Utah and maybe even across the United States. Not sure that they would fully endorse that decision.
That's true, but to get to that, you have to cross an industrial area, a junkyard, a railroad track, and secure airport property,
A large
Wow.
highway.
and a major highway
without
to get
any-
to that area.
Without any cynicism at all, what would you suggest we have done differently? Like, I don't, honestly, short of smoke signals, I don't know what else we could have done.
I feel, and perhaps I've not been informed, and again, if that's the case,
Well, I know-
I stand corrected.
Let me just say from my there's often frustration because we try to do our part, but people are like, hey, we never heard of it, and it's genuine. And so, like, we want to be able to do a better job getting it out. So seriously, what suggestions do you have?
I attend the city council meetings at Cedar City often, not every night, but often. I mean, every week. I'm in touch with many community leaders, and I was aware of this. I had zero awareness of this proposed site. So you said it was on the radio.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You said it's been advertised. I know that there are leading citizens in this,
Yeah.
in the law enforcement agency, that didn't even know those hearings were taking place.
I do know that it was spoken of 3 weeks ago in the Cedar City Council meeting. So
If the mission is to communicate more openly and frequently, I'd suggest you should continue to pursue that, because I am sure you all know it. You've met over it countless times, hours, days, weeks, and months. I don't think the community is as fully informed as you are. I will leave you with.
And unfortunately, you know, what I find even in the process of running for public office, unfortunately, you know, I applaud folks that'll come and get involved in the process, because we have a terrible amount of apathy in our community that, I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than that. I really appreciate folks that come out and participate in the process and provide input. I applaud you. Thank you for being here, because quite frankly, we've done everything we can. You know, that as we've gone through this process, we've accumulated a list of emails of people who had questions in the past or who attended our public meetings over the past year. That entire group got specific emails about all of these events. And quite honestly, I don't know if any, or very few, if any, of those folks have showed up over the last 2 weeks.
I can't speak for anyone but
yeah,
myself.
I don't know what else we can do besides go drag them kicking and screaming.
We had our last hearing, and I was concerned because there wasn't very many that showed up. And I asked John, I said, John, I'm concerned that not enough people know about this. We need to have a fourth hearing on this. Put it in the newspaper. We don't have one anymore, a local one. I think it was in the Spectrum.
We did the Spectrum.
It was on the radio. It was on social media, which a lot of people participate in nowadays. And so, and I was very vocal about this publicly, that when we voted, when we went into closed session, discussed this property about making an offer, which we came back in open session and voted to make an offer. And I was public then that I still prefer the north interchange site. Now, there's great advantage to this site because there's utilities there. Mm-hmm. We don't have to build near the roads or infrastructure, and it's a huge savings. Probably could be upwards of $5 to $10 million in savings. We've had that jail out there, the existing jail, for 36 years. Mike, Shalon, 37 years. We've had that right there on Main Street. A lot of people don't even know what it is. They drive by, there's schools, there's churches, there's all kinds of, there's houses right bordering that property. Mr. O'Brien, this has been an exhausting process. We were looking at that property. Frank Nichols was the owner of the property in Fiddlers. I was accused during the campaign of having some nefarious deals with Frank Nichols because he gave me a campaign contribution 4 years ago. On that. How would have I known 4 years ago that we were going to look at that piece of property? And there was signs around town, you probably saw them, that they were putting a jail on the property that somebody donated money to my campaign. This has been a grueling experience.
I don't doubt that, and I'm sure you spent a lot of time and energy and money on it. And
so I will say I still prefer the north, but I think this is an awesome site. And I live much closer to this site than you do. When I eat Sunday dinner, I'll look out my window and see this facility. It doesn't bother me one bit.
You asked earlier, Ms. Wood, what could we do differently? Maybe, and I don't know. Apparently the communication method isn't working effectively. And Mr. Cousins, by your admission that there's nobody here. So whatever we're doing isn't working, so what do we do different?
I don't know if we hold signs out on the freeway or...
I would suggest that we do put signage. We
had a meeting a year ago with how many? 250 people. I thought everybody was just burned out on this subject because, I mean, seriously, I've been wondering why people haven't been showing up. Last time, there was even a whisper, and there was 200 people that showed up for a hearing. It was out in a neighborhood where one of the individuals is on the committee now, and now he's come back and said, I'd be okay with it next to my house. There's a lady out in Fiddlers that was on the committee, and she was very against the site out there. Nobody wants this close to them. Mm-hmm. Nobody. But we can't build it out where there's no utilities. We cannot do that. And we can't build it out there where our officers have to spend half the day taking somebody out there to the facility.
I think all of those issues
very, very
and more
difficult.
Should be considered, and it sounds like you've done that. I commend you on your research. We failed as communications team. And when I say we, I'm going to say the public, because you've attempted to reach out. Apparently we haven't seen it as the public, and I'm going to speak for myself, but again, I think I probably represent the many, maybe most. We didn't know. So there needs to be a better communication process. Signage, public notices, newspaper ads, I'm not sure which, but I do not believe that the residents that are in this immediate area have full awareness of what's taking place. The land's already got an offer, the decision's going to be made today, and then everyone's going to say, what in the heck happened? I will ask again for public record, could we get, or could I get, a list of who the landowners are, who that LLC is? I would tell you, I oppose the process, the notification process, and I oppose locating the jail in that position.
To your point on that, Mr. O'Brien, I know the old family that owned that property, but like Commissioner Blake said, there's a company that bought that from them, and they're reselling this property. I've never met them. I don't know. Have you ever met them?
I've never met
Do you
him.
know who they are?
No, one of the principals.
I've met the president of the company.
Didn't know him before.
Oh, I was introduced to him because of this through their real estate agent.
So to imply that we have some kind of financial gain through this,
Not suggesting that, Mr.
it came
Cousin.
across that way.
My intent was, my question specifically was, who is the beneficiary? Who is the landowner? Who's going to get the money?
Well,
I would also ask,
and at this point, I mean, legal counsel. As soon as that's
it'll be
final,
public record here in a
it'll
matter
be
of
public.
days.
It'll be
Right.
public record.
Okay.
But
Here's another
someone
question.
might want
What-
to buy it out from under us. Land, when you deal with land, that's the reason why it's done in closed session of that type.
Does anyone know what the timeline was between when the Nichols family sold it to the LLC and when it became?
It wasn't the
Nichols.
Nichols family.
I'll sharpen my
No,
question.
I do not. I don't know a specific timeline. I know we're dealing specifically with the current owner. We've not dealt with the past owner.
We don't know what they paid for the property.
We have no idea what they paid.
I mean,
We
don't
needed
As a citizen, it'd be
enough
interesting
time
to
to
know
do
what
our
the
due
timeline was.
diligence.
Well,
due
and I think
diligence.
another factor to consider is look, we can only buy properties that are commercially available. Like, it's not an infinite list, and as Commissioner Cousins pointed out, infrastructure and many other factors are a part of it. And so, will they benefit? Well, yeah, they're going to get the fair market price, but this will have been an arm's length transaction. I mean, we have to protect our negotiating position and ability, and state law allows us to have closed sessions for that very meeting, for that very reason. But that doesn't. It's unfair to presume or assume some kind of insider trading, and beyond the fact that they've purchased the property, they own the property, and they will benefit by selling the property, and I imagine some kind of a premium to their purchase price. Beyond that, like, we are very careful to avoid such things because we are spending the taxpayer's dollar, which is very sacred to us.
As it should be.
So.
It'd be interesting, and this isn't a question, just a point to ponder. It'd be interesting to know what the timeline of the formation of that LLC was and the transaction of the land purchase to the land sale to the
I have no
county.
idea, and we don't have anything to do with
No,
that. This property was available, and we're looking at buying it.
and they are an established company. They're an established development company that's got projects. You know, they're not necessarily a local development company. They're a development company that's got projects. I don't know how far-reaching. I don't know how far-reaching, but we don't
I'd
know.
like to
We don't
say-
know their background or much about them.
I feel like the Iron County residents and our staff are the ones that are going to benefit more than anybody else, because it's going to be a safer jail for our commander and her folks, and it's going to be because it is a new with high technology, it's going to be safer for our community. So that's my comment, that I feel like it's going to be a safer for our community and for our staff.
Commissioner Wood, I have
Picture of the
100%
jail.
agree.
You into?
The people that are standing on the front line, doing the work, if we don't stand behind them, who will?
Exactly.
I absolutely support it. It's the right thing to do, and we should spend the tax money to do that. We should just make sure that the community is involved with the decision.
And we've been asking since our meeting a year ago or further back for anybody in the community that could come forth and show us a better property to do so.
You know, and I'll even go so far as to say this: when we were looking at the North Interchange property last year, the folks in the Fiddlers area were actually instrumental in helping us find this property. They did their research and actually brought this property to our
Attention.
attention I mean, it was those folks. They turned into instant real estate agents. That they're the ones that brought this property to our attention.
Why do you think that was?
Well, and let's go back.
It's a rhetorical question.
I understand, but I'm going to address it really quickly. We were committed to that North Interchange property. We felt that was that was a good property. And as we went through that process, that property was in incorporated Cedar City. We actually went to the Cedar City Planning Commission for approval on that property, and were denied at the Cedar City Planning Commission. They made a negative recommendation. Therefore, the Cedar City Council would not vote and allow us to move forward on that property.
That's what killed that deal.
That's what killed that deal. It wasn't us that killed that deal. It simply wasn't a viable property anymore because of the decisions of the Cedar City Planning Commission, the Cedar City Council, which we respect. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are appointed and elected positions that we respect. That's why we came off that property and looked elsewhere, because we could not get the conditional use permits or the permission moving forward to move forward on that property.
That's one thing that made this attractive is it's an island of county property, or county, not county property, but counties. It's in the county. It's an island of property that's in the unincorporated county, and so we don't have to get a conditional use permit from the city to have this facility.
And pardon me, you just said that you were rejected by the Cedar City Council and the Planning Commission.
The Cedar City Council never officially...
Not the council, but the Planning Commission would make a negative recommendation to the council.
Change the zoning is what the...
Yeah, it came down to a zoning issue.
Zoned that with residential, and they did not want to change the zoning.
And it was in contrary to their master plan. So, I mean, it never did go to a council vote, but we communicate with the Cedar City Council regularly. We don't just show up to the council meetings and hit them over the head with things. We have these conversations as colleagues, and knew that it was not going to make it through the Cedar City Council. So, we could have protested what the Cedar City Planning Commission's decision and taken it directly to the Cedar City Council ourselves, and we weren't going to do that. We respect the outcome of the Cedar City Planning Commission, and knew that we were not going to move forward on that position.
Okay, I have exceeded my 3 minutes.
Mr. O'Brien, thank you for your comments. You brought out many of the
I don't have issue with
typically brought up points.
You guys got a big job. You got an important job. But if this community is going to continue to be what it is, we got to stand up and do the right thing. We can't allow greed or corruption to overrule common sense and justice.
That's what we're trying to do, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your consideration.
For the record. Wait. What do you infer by greed and corruption? How is greed and corruption part of this process, Rob?
I think that the more people that are involved, Mr. Cousins, you get perspective from those that don't have financial gain. And I'm not suggesting that any of you do. Please understand, I am not suggesting that you have financial gain.
So there's greed and corruption with us selecting this site, is what you're saying.
I think that if we were to start over, like any problem solving, I think you have a problem here. I don't think the community is as fully engaged and aware of this as you are. That's a problem. We've
been beating this horse to death for how long have you been on the commission?
Over a year.
6 years.
Yeah,
we started the process of looking for sites with Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Brinker.
Southern Utah University did a study, presented how many? 4 sites?
4 sites.
And none of them worked. We've been through this. I don't think you understand, Mr. O'Brien, what we've been through to get to this point.
I'm sure.
So the jail selection site selection has been going on long before any of these 3 folks were on the commission.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I commend you for your diligence and discipline and sticking with it, because we need it.
Yeah.
But somehow, anytime, I believe in continuous improvement. Do you share that vision?
Well, absolutely. That's why we've taken the time and the due diligence to get where we are today.
I would suggest an area to improve is communication with the community. I think that it's not as good as you would like it to be. It's not as good as you have attempted to communicate, because it's not working. And I would suggest let's find a way. I'd be happy to work with you. I do support. I volunteer. My wife does. We're engaged in the community. I am quite certain no one knows as much about what's going on here as you do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Corey Estes. I'm a resident in the Sunset Canyon area, which is, as you know, south of the proposed location. Born and raised in northern Utah. My wife's born and raised in southern Utah. I spent 25 years outside of Utah as a police officer and a detective before we decided to move back here, which was always the plan. We moved back to Cedar because it was kind of a halfway point between our two families, and Cedar reminds me of what Layton used to be like when I grew up there. I echo the comments that I kind of feel blindsided. I know this has been going on for a while. The last I knew in the media and everything was that this was going to be in the north location. And I don't think maybe that it's so much a matter of communication as it is a matter of that people just are busy. We have lives just like you do. I was going to send in an email when I found out about this meeting this morning, but to tell you the truth, my blood was boiling, so I decided to drive out here. I completely respectfully disagree with your assertion that having this near residences and residential areas is actually going to make the community safer. I'm basing that off of 25 years in law enforcement. A county jail is a revolving door, and you know that. And when these people walk out the door, it's not like they've been in prison for 5 years and they have a family member excited to come pick them up. Most of these people walk out on foot. And when you say there's no adjacent homes in the area, there are. There's adjacent neighborhoods, and these people are going to have no choice but to either walk up 56 or south down Cross Hollow through my neighborhood. And there's no law enforcement officer, nobody that can tell me that that's not going to make my neighborhood less or more safe. It's just simply not. These people are going to walk out into those neighborhoods.
Can I ask a question really
Sure.
quickly? Do you understand the population of a county jail?
Well, it depends on the population of the county.
Well, it depends on it's people that are incarcerated in the county jail are there for less than 365 days. And my background, I'm currently a law enforcement
I'm well
officer,
aware of that.
detective for 27 years here in Cedar City.
I'm aware of that.
People that are incarcerated and that are actually released back into the community are Iron County residents. We don't release anybody back into the community.
They lived here before.
That don't have the legal right and that live here in Iron County.
Okay, but what about, we just had $500,000 in marijuana seized by UHP? Was that an Iron County resident? When they're released from the jail, where are they going to go?
That's not somebody that's going to be sentenced and serve time here in the Iron County jail.
No, they're not. But you know as well as I do the way the system
If
is.
they're sentenced to somewhere, that's going to be to the Utah State Prison.
Rarely spend that much time in jail before they go through the process of the judicial process. They're released back into the community. And when they're released, they're going to be in the neighborhood. So my concern obviously is the proximity of the residents in that area, just like the Fiddler's Canyon people were. And I completely realize that you as commissioners are not going to be able to make everybody happy. Just like the other gentleman said, everybody wants a new facility. They want this in the community, but they don't want it in their backyard. And I feel the same way. I feel like my property value is probably going to go down. I don't particularly want to live in that neighborhood if the jail is going to be there. We're already dealing with, and this hasn't come up in any commission meetings or city meetings that I'm aware of, but the issue with GenPack and the unbelievable noise that most of the residents say has increased over at least the last year is making it almost unbearable. And now you're going to have a county jail there.
So I just moved to the Equestrian Point area, but my former address was 2484 West Meadow Street, which directly overlooked GenPack. My back deck looked down on this proposed site. I know exactly what GenPack was from 20 years of personal experience. And this facility is designed as a dark sky facility. It looks like a professional business building. It's got all of the latest technology for security. And those people that live on Meadow Street are my dear friends that this is going to directly affect more than anybody else. And right now they look down on a stockyard and a junkyard. This is going to improve that view. And that's not just an opinion. That's literally from my conversations with my closest friends and neighbors who are really the first ones that are going to be affected by this.
Well, my concern is not the view and the aesthetics of the area.
Sure.
My concern is literally the people that are going to be released from the jail and where they're going to go.
Well,
And you know as well as I do from your time in law enforcement that in the last 5 to 10 years of my career, we saw an increase in crime. We saw an increase in the brazenness of criminals and the violence that occurs. And it's only going to take one guy to get out of jail and walk through that neighborhood and do something before it bites everybody. And everybody says it's not going to happen in your community until it does. So
Well, and
I have a right to come here and voice my opinion as a citizen, which is what I'm
Absolutely.
doing. I'm not making any accusations or anything else as far as money or anything like
We
that.
have
I'm
the
just saying
sheriff
that
address that.
as-
Excuse me.
as a former law enforcement officer and dealing with that element of society, I don't want that at my doorstep.
And
it
we've had
seems
a
to me that
facility. We've had a jail on Main Street in Cedar
Right
City for
next to
37
they're
Holmes.
years.
on Main Street.
What's that?
You walk right out on Main Street.
So you got to keep in mind that first off, the only people being released in the neighborhoods are the people that belong here already and are already in your neighborhoods.
But there's a reason that they're in the jail.
Right. And when they do their time according to what the judge has given them, then they have to be released. It doesn't matter where they're released, they're still part of this community.
But I'm aware of that. But I'm talking about the people that
Well-
are released that they get booked, whether it doesn't matter what their crime is. They're not going to be held in there until the court date. They get released, they're back out in the community.
But that's the rule of
Where they
law, and
live.
it happens anyway. They're still part of this community.
I realize
They can go any place in the county they want or in the state.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not
Well,
sure how we
but
got
you
to
are.
that
You're-
point.
you're-
I'm not.
you're saying-
What
you're
I'm
saying that
disputing is that I don't really want that location in my backyard.
But they're already in that location. That's the whole point. They're already in the location. They can go anywhere in the county that they want to.
That's true.
So
how I
so-
just understand how I feel like I'm being attacked for voicing an opinion on not wanting this in the location. And unfortunately, I couldn't come to the other hearings. But I drove out here today to voice my opinion in opposition to this location because the last I heard it was supposed to be out north where it was further away from major residential locations. So I'm not disputing that there is a need for it. They're sure there absolutely is. That's an old jail. I'm just disputing that I don't particularly want that. And the residents that I've talked to in my neighborhood, they didn't know this was coming. The last thing they heard was that it was going to be up north. So that's why I'm here to voice my opinion today on the fact that I don't think it's the best location.
well, we're to the point that we have no other locations in the county that we can put it. And we have to have certain things. We have to be close to the courts. We have to be close to the hospital. We have to have utilities. We've wore out our options. This is the last best option that we have.
Well, except for the people that live in the community around it.
Well, but look at where the jail is right now. Right now, that's probably the safest neighborhood in the entire county. It's been there for 35 years.
So do you, as a sheriff and with a lot of years of law enforcement experience, do you not think, or can you tell me that those people that are being released are not going to migrate into those neighborhoods, steal cars, look for loose change, burglarize stuff?
No more so than they're doing right now.
It's just going to be that it's going to now be in get rid of my neighbor's area.
It's happening in your neighborhood right now. Talk to your police chief.
I'm not disputing that there's not crime. I mean, I'm well aware of that. I'm just
Chad, come
It's
on.
not. It's
Come
not
up,
going
please.
to go out. It's not going to go up just because somebody's been booked into jail and then released.
But if
that
they have
crime rate
opportunity
doesn't
to
go up
in
because of
and,
that.
and they don't have any money when they get out, why would they not go across the street to Genpack and burglarize a car and try to to leave the area or whatever? I mean, you know as well as I do what these people do.
Well,
I mean,
you're
Sir, I just want to opine. Would it make you feel a little bit better if you knew there was a track record or a case study of a residential neighborhood with a jail and there wasn't this type of crime that you're concerned
sure,
about?
I'd be open to that.
Well, we have that because the current location is surrounded by the Fiddlers area, school. You can throw a rock and hit the school, a church. We don't have those issues that you're saying you're.
But those are legitimate concerns that
I'm sure,
myself
yeah.
and that my neighbors have. And my
I'm not saying
neighbors
that they're-
don't have a career in law enforcement to fall back on. They don't deal with those type of people. They
I'm
never
not-
have had to deal with those.
I don't want to say that that's not a legitimate fear or concern. I'm just saying that I don't think that it's fact-based because we've had the current jail in the position that it's in for 35 years, and we just don't have people walking out the jail door and then going and victimizing the surrounding neighborhoods. And I think that should make you feel better.
But do you think that that is possibly because it's so close to Main Street and they have other avenues to go where they need to go?
Well, this one's going to be right next to Highway 56.
Road in 56.
Which is not really in a normal business area. I mean, they're going to have to.
The neighborhoods are closer right now to the current jail than they are across through through the industrial area and across the railroad tracks and across Highway 56 into the residential area. It's harder for them to get there from where the proposal is than where it currently is.
I'm just concerned, like I said, for my safety, my kids' safety, my neighbor's safety.
I think that we would all have that same
understand
thought
that.
process. I think everybody would, who's rational, but then
We
when
all
you dig into the
understand that. We
facts.
get
I
And
that.
I'm not
But
attacking,
it's-
obviously, law enforcement.
it's
I'm
just-
obviously very pro-law enforcement.
But that's just not the case. I mean, we don't have those kinds of problems.
But do you think the demographic, the change in the location will actually cause that to happen?
I don't.
Where you don't have access to the nearest gas station or anything else on Main Street?
No, I don't believe that will be the case.
I really hope it's not. I mean, if this sounds like it's gonna go through, I hope that doesn't happen.
Us too. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. But I mean, it's just, I mean, and my policing, 27 years experience here in Cedar City, from day one in 1995 to today, I patrolled the area of Fiddler's Canyon. I can't think of an incident, I mean, really off the top of my head, where somebody got out of jail and went on a spree through that neighborhood. And there, I mean, if you look at the area directly surrounding where the jail is now, we have a lot of apartment buildings. We have a lot of parking lots, both at the school and residential parking lots up through that area. And I just don't remember a specific incident of that happening. The auto burglaries and those type of things that we've dealt with in that area were locals or crews moving through the town. I mean, I really, off the top of my head, honestly can't think of, somebody that got out of jail and then just wreaked havoc in the neighborhood. It just never did happen.
I'm glad it doesn't happen here,
well,
but it does happen other places.
Oh yeah, and it's yeah.
I've been involved in law enforcement for 40 years, and I've lived and worked across the nation. And I haven't seen that anywhere, where they get right out of jail and go directly into the neighborhoods and victimize the neighborhoods. I just haven't seen that.
And one thing I think is important to remember is that this isn't just a jail. This is going to be the sheriff's complex. So Sheriff Carpenter's office is going to be there, and every single one of his deputies, investigators, evidence techs, they're all going to be on that same site. So people are going to leave, and they're going to want to get as far away from that place as they can. And they're probably going to, I think that's what we've seen historically, and I think that's what we're going to see going forward.
I hope
And
so.
I don't think anybody wants to invalidate your.
That's kind of what it feels like. I mean, I really
No, and
give you
I
don't.
apologize.
like standing
Yeah.
up here and giving my opinion based on my experience.
And maybe we should do this different. Maybe we should have
Everybody here.
everybody say their comment, and then we can maybe address those things at the end.
Yeah, I like
might
that.
be better.
That's
Well, let me ask you a question. Regardless of where the jail goes, and I know there's operational things that come into play, calls for how many calls are holding, that type of stuff. Would the Cedar City Police Department and the Sheriff's Office be willing to commit that you're going to up the patrols in the neighborhoods around the jail?
we have the Cedar City Police Chief's here.
I know he's back there. I'm just saying. I mean, it's
Throw him under the bus.
concern do you know what I mean?
Well, and that's the whole point, is when you look at where the jail currently is, because of the influx of deputies going and coming at all hours of the day, we don't have the problem. It's one of the safest neighborhoods in the city.
Well, and I hope that is the case in whichever location.
And this is personal experience. When I would book somebody into jail, there were many times that I would leave the jail and make a loop up through Fiddlers. I mean, I'm in the area. It's easy to patrol that area. Just speaking from my personal experience, I mean, very often I would leave the jail, especially, and on graveyard shift. If I would leave the jail, I would usually run up and check Fiddlers Elementary. And that was just kind of my habit. I can't speak for everybody else, but the Fiddlers area gets a lot of attention from patrol, and a lot of that is because the jail's right there.
I respect that opinion, but let me offer also my experience.
Sure.
I booked people into the jail, and by the time I got done doing my paperwork and drove out the Sallyport, they were walking down the street. That's my concern.
Yeah, and it's a legitimate concern. I think that's not the norm. I mean, everybody that, our judges we don't really have an OR program here. If you're getting out of jail, you're making bail. I mean, obviously that happens sometimes, but that wasn't my experience and hasn't been my experience that's the norm. I mean, it happens, but I think I don't think that's the norm here. These guys can probably speak to that a little bit more, but yeah, it's frustrating, but that was the exception, not the norm.
Right, and that's, I mean, the vast majority of time, they have somebody that comes and picks them up and takes them back to wherever they're gonna go. It's not typical that they just get released out onto the street. It happens sometimes, but they just got arrested. They're not looking to get arrested right away again by going out and victimizing the local neighborhood.
I hope not. I truly hope not. And I hope that the OR program here in Utah is different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, do we have, and I'm going to ask, I mean, really, the judges didn't OR people, and I don't know that they do now. I mean,
if they do, they'll usually require them to be signed up with the contracted pretrial services that we have at the county. And if they don't have ties here, a lot of times that factors in whether they're not going to be released. So people that are going to be released would be citizens in the county.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sit down because I'm sure there's other people that want to get up here and
Thank
speak.
you for.
thank you.
Let's have Darren. Yeah, thank you.
I thought about whether I was going to close with this when I was driving out here, and I think I'm going to, even though it may sound a little bit cheesy. But because of what I saw in the last part of my career, I thoroughly enjoyed my career. I thought I got in and got out at a very good time. But I had a quote next to my desk for the last year of my career. And I hate to equate things down to a movie quote, but it is. And I think it's relevant, and it really is regardless. It doesn't matter which location the jail goes. If it's near a neighborhood, it's just, this is kind of a quote that I thought about. But it's from a few old men, No Country for Old Men. Tommy Lee Jones plays the sheriff, an old school sheriff. And this is kind of the way I felt at the end of my career, seeing this stuff that I'd seen. And I'm sure every law enforcement officer in this room knows what I'm talking about when I read this. But the crime you see now, it's hard to even take its measure. It's not that I'm afraid of it. I always knew had to be willing to die to even do this job, not to be glorious. But I don't want to push my chips forward and go out and meet something that I don't understand. You can say it's my job to fight it, but I don't know what it is anymore. More than that, I don't want to know. And Matt would have to put his soul at hazard. He would have to say, okay, I'll be part of that world. And I feel like having a jail there puts that world right back on my doorstep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Blaine Ney. I assure you I know what the word brief means. I've known everybody on the commission and our clerk and people on the planning staff for years. And I acknowledge that you people are people of intense integrity. And we elected you because we trust you. I've been impressed with the due diligence that you've made on selecting a site, and I'm satisfied with your communication. I knew that the AutoZone Mall site was off the table months ago. It didn't surprise me today. I've known about this site for about 3 weeks. It didn't surprise me today. I think it's time to move on, buy the property, get the jail built. We need it. Our prisoners need it. Our sheriff needs it. We need to get it done. And I think you've got the right spot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blaine.
Good morning. Maybe I'll just address, and I appreciate your concerns. So, to Mike's point, I don't think that there's ever been a case where we've had somebody leave the jail and commit a crime, especially in that neighborhood. To Mike's point, it being the safest neighborhood is pretty true. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. And I get the inherent fear and concern, as was stated. We need one, but I don't want it in my backyard. Personally, I'd be happy to have that. There's areas of the city now, me and Ryan were talking about that earlier, that there is a high crime rate. And we thought, maybe that's where the jail needs to be, because it'd be nice to drive that crime rate down. And so I appreciate the comments and the concerns. I know that it's hard to get the message out. And I honestly think apathy is a big part of that, as Mike stated. I think people just, if it doesn't affect me directly, I've got too much going on. And I talked to Rob about that before and explained to him my views about the locations. I like the north site as well, but I think the current site is perfect for us. We took 12 people to jail last week between Monday and this weekend. We're extremely busy, and it's just getting busier. And so we are there often. We patrol that area because we're there all the time. And so for location to be close and easily accessible, that's important to us because we're there often. And it's become routine, and it's a matter of policy to have medical checks before we take them out. And sometimes the officers make a gut decision and go there thinking they don't need to, and sometimes we're sent back to the hospital. So proximity is so critically important to what we do. I know there was a question brought up as well about the OR, and Sheriff Carpenter could maybe speak to this, but that is absolutely true. When people go into jail and they're released, the rule of law is important, and we embrace that. Once they've done their time or it's pretrial, they have every right to be in the community. Now, I know that many jails, and I can't speak to ours, maybe Shalon or Ken could do that, as far as state inmates that we house, but those folks, as you all know, are there. They're not leaving. It's a temporary holding place, and then they're on their way to a federal prison or a state prison. And so I certainly get the concern, but I want the community to rest assured that we just, as a Cedar City Police Department, we don't respond to these calls. We don't have people walking out and committing crimes. It's rare, if ever, that we've had something occur in the Fiddler's Canyon area, and many of the neighbors, like you say, who may not want to speak up because it doesn't affect them, would say that we've appreciated having this jail in our community because they're a quiet neighbor, and it makes our community safer. So,
to that point, our architect just chimed in and he said, it might be worth pointing out that the new jail will have the capacity to keep those who need to be in jail and won't get released because of lack of capacity. I know that Shalon, our jail commander, has spoken of that. You know, what's worse, an escapee or somebody that never got booked because we didn't have capacity?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
John, before we forget, you said you had some online stuff.
else?
Do you want to do those now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jeannie. Go ahead. You do yours, and
Go
then
ahead.
and just so we don't forget.
Jeannie
I will.
Bartholomew. I live in that area. I don't live in Fiddlers, but I live in Sunbow, right behind Canyon View Middle School, right across from Canyon View High School, and down the road from Fiddlers Canyon, where all my children have gone to school, to all three schools. Not one time I've lived over there. 37 years, so I'm thinking as long as the jail's been there, correct? Half the time now, didn't even know it was there. Didn't even know it was located there. Never has the schools, any of the three schools that I know of that my children attended there, has the schools been put on lockdown because someone wants to escape. Never have I had law enforcement come into my neighborhood and say, you need to lock your doors down because somebody escaped from the prison or they just went out. I have no idea when a jailmate is released, whether it's the same day, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, have no idea. I was looking forward to the new site being on the north end of town to bring more businesses and stuff there and to make me feel even more safer because it was going to be a nice building. It was at a nice location. And like I said, I've never had one problem the whole 37 years I've lived there. So I agree that it's a nice area. I feel safe. Like I said, half the time, the only time I know that it's there is when I drive by it. But otherwise, I have none that it's there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this will take a minute.
Okay.
Let's see.
These were emails we received that they wanted them entered into the records.
Part of our outreach campaign was to please make comments via clerk.group@ironcounty.net. This one is from Candace Palmer. Hello, I just wanted to strongly voice my opinion against the building of a correctional facility in the proposed location near the airport. My family lives in Sunset Canyon subdivision, literally within a mile or two of the proposed location, and the proposal concerns me greatly. Cedar City has been such a wonderful place to raise our family. We moved here 10 years ago from Oklahoma, and we loved the feeling of safety, the small town feel, and benefits of living near the college. I think as a community we are smarter than this. I can't fathom why this proposal even exists. The idea of building a jail within a mile or two of hundreds of small children seems reckless and uninformed. With the huge areas around us of barren land, why on earth would an area so close to residences even be considered? Just my 2 cents. I would hope that the managers of the city and the offices in consideration here would use common sense to protect the defenseless minors of our community. We can and must do better than this, all caps. If my voice would be heard with a petition, I have no doubt that I could raise hundreds of voices within hours of citizens who share my strong opinions. Thank you so much for your consideration. Candace Palmer. Okay. That was her again. This is from Brian. And it was talk to text, so the last name is Culture, but I bet that's not right. Brian, within your Farmers Association, my number is blah, blah, blah. We have some concerns about the proposed site of your county jail. My number is, okay, that wasn't.
Oh, that's the IFA. They wanted to put a rail spur.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. Okay, so.
We plan on working with them.
This is from Devin Claffey. The new site you have selected is ridiculous. It's closer to homes than the last place you selected, which was at least in the outside of the city. This one is right in the city. Also, why isn't the meeting here in Cedar City and at night so people can attend? You're trying to pull a fast one on us, and this isn't right. Have the meeting in the city you propose it in and at night so we can attend. This is from James Howells. I thought this issue was settled and the new jail was approved to be built just north of the North Cedar I-15 interchange. When did this change happen without any notice? I support the North Interchange site. I do not support the Horse Alley site. It is not convenient to any transportation routes, particularly I-15 or Main Street. This is from Jane Hawks. As county resident of the county, little typo there, I am in support of the proposed location for the new sheriff/county jail complex near the airport. There seems to be a lot of property along Airport Road that is not developed as productively as it could be, and this would be appropriate use of that location. This is from Heather Stoneley. Thank you for finding a place for the county jail that is zoned appropriately while giving the police access to resources they need. I truly appreciate the diligence the county has given to this issue. And I think that's the last one. Okay, those are the emails.
And maybe some of the confusion on the a lot of you thought this was a done deal was because an individual in town during the election put up signs all over town that said we were building a jail out there, and we hadn't even made an offer on the property yet. So there was a lot of miscommunication from different residents on this whole process.
Just a question for the attorney. Is there
Would you please state your name, ma'am?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Jenny Hendricks. Question for the attorney. Is there any legal requirement for notification of surrounding property owners?
The only requirements for notification are for the public hearings, and Mr. Whitaker handles those, but there are no mailer requirements as there would be with, say, if you were doing a protection area or other zoning requirements. We're required to send out mailing to all properties within so many feet of the proposed location.
Right.
This isn't one of those, no.
Okay. And then, Rob, I just wanted to let you know, just according to public records, this property was purchased by the current owner December 2nd of last year, and that current owner is Candor Development Incorporated, and that is an LLC that was formed November 15th of last year.
Thank you. That's well, we know who it is, but didn't know their history. So thank you.
Any other comments? If seeing none, we'll close this public hearing. And just to go back to, as I mentioned, this has been really an exhausting process because we have done our due diligence. We've had multiple hearings. We've looked at multiple sites. When we were looking at the Fiddler site on the Automall site, some wanted us to build it further north, but there wasn't good access under the freeway. There were no utilities. We looked at, as Commissioner Wood mentioned, we looked at Iron Springs. That was the first site we looked at. There's no utilities, no sewer. And you just have to have that infrastructure to build a jail. You can't put a jail on a septic system; it just doesn't work. And so, this has been a difficult process. We've really worked hard on this, and appreciate all those that have been involved. Is there any other discussion amongst the commission?
No, I think we've discussed and discussed.
When I ran for commission, I went and went through the jail on a tour. And from that moment on, I thought, if there's nothing else that I do as a commissioner, we really feel like we need to upgrade our jail. And our sheriff's complex. It's really, really important to our community, to make our community safe and to make it safe for our employees and our staff. And that's really important to me.
Thank you. Anything
No.
else?
And it has been a hard process. I'll say that too.
No, and I would say this: as we take action on this today, this will not be the. This isn't the end of discussions, and this is something that we've spoken about all along. As we move forward in the process, we'll continue to have public meetings when. To let you know, there will be, John, do you know if on the county website if we've done the jail information banner yet?
Well, I asked him to. I haven't checked.
Ironcounty.net is our website. We will have, as we move forward, we'll have, we're going to continue to put information out there.
There's still all the stuff that we did last year too, right, John?
Yeah.
On our website.
We really don't want to.
What's that under? Well, just the informational part.
Yeah, we don't want to proceed with this in a vacuum and in a silo. We're gonna.
I think it's important that people maybe go and look at our information that we, those informational meetings that we had, because they were very, very valuable. I feel.
And we'll continue to have those. As we move forward with our design process, when we get to a major kind of a crossroads, when we have a bunch of new information to put out, we're committed to putting that out, and that's been the plan all along. If you guys would send an email to John Clerk Group,
clerk.group@ironcounty.net,
and at least get your name, on the email list, so that you can receive those notices. Like you said before, it is tough to get people out to these meetings. I've made, I don't know how many phone calls I made to give people heads up that I knew were concerned. We've really tried to get people out to these meetings, and
people
this is a pretty average. This is a good showing. Where I said, a year and a half ago, every time we had a meeting, we had 250 people there, and this go around, we haven't, and we've advertised in exactly the same manner down the same routes, if not more. But if you guys want to stay informed, this is our contact information up on the screen. Please get on our mailing list. If you have comments or questions in the future, reach out to us. Our numbers and emails are right there on the county website. They're all public information. And I've spent a lot of time addressing concerns with people calling and emailing, and we really are trying to really be forward with this.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move for approval of the Iron County Jail facility site, location, and property purchase.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming. We'll now go to our item number 2, public comments. This is a 3-minute time limit per speaker for public comments, if anybody has anything they'd like to bring up. Seeing none, we will go to number 3, reporting on community health impact for Intermountain Healthcare. Becky Bronson.
We appreciate Becky and the IHC folks being patient.
And the DNR folks are next.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I have a community health impact report that I'd like to give each of you to reference, but I won't be giving the presentation. I'm going to turn the time over to Jordan Merrill. Jordan is over community health for our region, and community health has to deal with how they determine what our needs are in our area and how Intermountain Health has initiatives that can specifically address and increase the positive health of a community. So I will turn the time over to Jordan Merrill, and I will pass these out.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you for your time today, commissioners.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Happy to be here. I'm going to kind of walk you through this impact report, and I'm going to be speaking today a little bit about Intermountain Health as an organization. Our hospitals are important. Our clinics are important. It's my job and my hope is that we can keep people out of those if we can. And that's really where my role is and what this report is about and how we've done that. Kind of our intent here, every 3 years we do a community health needs assessment. We assess the needs of the community. In this report, it kind of tells you the process that we go to on page 6. How we do that, we look at affordability, we look at feasibility, we get input from the community on multiple different levels. We look at our data from our hospitals and our clinics to really assess what the highest needs are in the community. And we do that every 3 years. We just completed the last cycle of that, and so we are now in a new cycle. So this report is reporting on what we have done during that period of time. And one of those, the top needs is mental health, mental well-being, and really looking at how we can address that. And again, I'm speaking to things that are happening out in the community, not necessarily in our hospitals or our clinics. That work is important. That will be ongoing. That will continue to progress. But some of the things that we've done to improve mental well-being is we've really worked at addressing the amount of opioids that are prescribed from our hospitals and our clinics. We've really worked at and tried to get naloxone out into the communities. And this isn't within our clinicians. This is within community members' hands. And we do those trainings as often as we can, and whoever needs them and however we need them. We do them at colleges. I do them monthly at different colleges around town, getting them into the hands of our students. Naloxone kits that can reverse an opioid overdose. And we do that, and as well as teach many different mental well-being trainings, and those are readily available through the work that we do. And then we have what we call behavioral health networks set up throughout the community. These are where we partner with organizations that have counselors, therapists, and their non-Intermountain facilities, where we give funding to them to be able to address the low income, those individuals that maybe cost or insurance is a barrier, where they can go in at no cost and receive mental health care. And that's the intent behind those networks. And we have them all throughout Iron County. We just established a new partnership this year. And so we're really looking to address mental health however we can and in ways that we can. One of the things that we've done just recently, you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, the receiving center in Washington County. For example, we donated $100,000 to that to make sure that it can happen. It's important to us as a health system to ensure that those in our community receive the best care wherever and however they can. And typically, the work that I do is not at our facilities. It is within partnering organizations. A lot of 501s are counties, and the work that they do, we hope to amplify that work in any way that we can. In this report, we talk a lot about the social determinants of health, where that's working to really address food insecurity, housing, all of those things, and we're really putting a lot of money and effort into addressing this as a health system. And we've expanded the networks that we have for connection within our all of our partners, our nonprofit agencies, Southwest Behavioral Health as an organization, Family Healthcare. These type of organizations, our hope is to connect them to a closed loop system where they can make referrals. And so we established in the last couple of years a closed loop referral system that they can refer clients to, and they can ensure that they're getting housing, they're getting food, they're getting mental health care, all of those things within this loop. And so that's all work that we're trying to do that's outside of our hospital walls and within the community. And as you have questions, please feel free to hit me up throughout. Some of the things we're also doing, we're really working on hiring local, impact investing, which means we're investing in organizations that are looking, they've got a good cause, a good need, and we will give them money to be able to do those things that will address health, wellness, housing, all of those things, and make sure that they can do things that we can't as a health system. And so that's our goal. Over the last, in 2021, for example, it was $23 million that was donated to impact investing exclusively here in Utah, and that's throughout the whole state. And much of that has touched Iron County, and it's important for us. That's where I fit in. I ensure that work stays here locally in Iron County, in Washington County, and Garfield County. That's kind of my area that I cover. We've changed the way that we screen patients that come into our facilities to ensure that all of their health needs are being addressed. And if you've ever been into an Intermountain facility in the last couple of years, you'll notice that your intake questions have changed. And that's part of our work, to make sure that not only are we addressing the needs that you came in there for, but needs that you might be going back into the community and facing on a regular basis, which includes housing, food insecurity, and all of those things. One of the good stories in here, if I can find it. There's an example up in Wasatch. It says, this year, Intermountain Healthcare funding has enabled us to extend services to individuals where the cost of treatment would result in a very real stressor for this individual. The funding allows these individuals to focus on healing without financial worries, and potentially resulted in the retention of these individuals into our services. And again, everything that is reported in this is, whether it's financial, whether it's support, it is meant to increase health. As a state, we've just expanded. You've probably heard about the expansion that we've done, and we've expanded into 6 additional states to where our healthcare system now has a larger area, but we can't lose the work that we're doing in our local communities along the way. And if you flip to the last page of the report, and throughout this thing, you can please share these with anyone. There's QR codes you can scan in these reports as well, that you can find out more information about some of the suicide prevention training, some of the other information that we have available. So it didn't turn out to be a 352-page document. We can use some of the technology by you scanning these QR codes. But the last page, these are organizations that we have supported throughout Utah just in 2021, and our hope is to continue to expand those. And this is really where we lean on a lot of our local leaders, including county commissioners, city leadership, and other leadership of other organizations, private entities, nonprofit organizations. If there's a good cause, if there's a need, we hope to hear about it. I hope to hear about it, so that we can support those organizations in ways that maybe they're doing really important work that is helping the health outcomes of patients and individuals. And we want to continue that work. So that's just a small list and kind of a quick overview of what's in this impact report. But our real hope is to really impact the overall health of our communities each and every day and expand that. So any questions from the commissioners today?
I do. So all the counties in the state with Utah had some litigation on that opioid, and we will receive some monies for that. It's very, very specific to opioid. So that when we are able to get that monies, maybe that's something that we should touch base with you and see if there is something that we could do. It's very, very specific. So maybe you could be thinking about that. And do you know when that's coming, Luke? Do we? Okay. So it may be something that we could meet with.
If there was something that we could combine efforts,
Absolutely.
to try and
Help with that.
make a bigger
But it is
difference in the
very
community.
specific. I thought maybe we could use it for, children's, some type of after-school program or something, and it has to be very specific to opioids. So I don't know whether some type of a grant, something to give to somebody so they can get help or that type of thing. I'm not sure, but maybe think about that, and maybe we should meet with you, IHC, to see what we could maybe
For sure.
come up
We
with.
would love to do that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's our goal. We can do a lot more together than we can
Yeah.
separately. So absolutely, I'd love to have that discussion.
Okay.
We appreciate all you do
Good.
in our community.
Thank you.
We really do.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for your
thank
time
you.
today.
See, item number 4, presentation on Parowan Front WMA Habitat Management. Mr. Gurley, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm Stan Gurley, and I'm a habitat biologist with Utah Division of Wildlife Resources here in the southern region. With me, I have Gary Bezant, which is the regional habitat manager, and he can help if there's anything I don't have the answers to. I sent a PowerPoint to Chanel. Did I
Yes.
say that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We got that too.
Okay.
Very
Sounds good.
Yep.
It's a lot better than me talking. So
Well, and it has pretty pictures. So
yeah, that's why it's a
nice.
lot better than me talking. I'll give you something to look at besides my face. So, anyways, kind of get things started. The Parowan Front Wildlife Management Area is land purchased or owned by the Utah Division of Wildlife, and is managed for certain purposes. Generally, in this case, for mule deer. And each wildlife management area through Utah State Code was required to have a habitat management plan drafted and presented through a process so that we can have a management plan to base our activities on these wildlife management areas. Perfect. Will I be able to control it with the mouse here? Or?
No, I'm going to
Okay.
give you a clicker here momentarily.
I appreciate Stan coming and giving, and Gary bringing this to commission. They didn't know whether that it was all that necessary to do it, but I feel like it's important that our community gets to see some of the things that our cooperative agents
Yeah. No, we
are
appreciate
working
it.
on.
Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. So like I said, this is the presentation of the habitat management plan. A copy of the plan should have been emailed to you too. Feel free to look over it. It is a lengthy document, I guess you could say. So as code, there's a process that we go through. We need to, first we have the regional staff review the habitat management plan, and then it goes through the Utah Division of Wildlife Habitat Council, and then through the RDCC and also the county commissioners, which is an optional hurdle, if you want to call it, for us. But we like to make sure that the county is involved and that if it is something they want to address. So I reached out to Marilyn and asked, and she said she would like that, just for the reasons she stated earlier. And then through the Regional Advisory Committee. And then the Wildlife Board, that's another optional place that it can go. So still on code, some things I want to point out in the code is what needs to be included in the wildlife management plan is the purpose of and anticipated uses, the description of management limitations and the conditions of the areas that are the covering areas, an inventory of existing conditions, a statement of desired future conditions, and a list of strategies of how that might be implemented. And then also a description of reallocation of forage, water, and other resources. Again, in code, we are required to involve different groups. So, for instance, in this case, agriculture The hunting and fishing community, recreation, and other uses, adjacent land ownerships or residents, and other interested parties. So the Habitat Committee, or the Habitat Management Plan Committee, was formed in, I believe, September of 2022. That included these people, or these members of the committee. So Donnie Hunter, which represented local sportsmen, and David Hewlett, who is a livestock permittee on the WMA, Evan DeHammer from the Mule Deer Foundation, Marilyn Wood, Iron County Commissioner, Mike Worthen, the Iron County Commissioner, Iron County Natural Resource Management Specialist, Dustin Shively from the BLM, he is a wildlife biologist, Jacob Benson from the E&I Conservation District, and then other Utah Division of Wildlife Resources personnel, including the regional biologist and prairie dog specialists and so on. So general information, the WMA is about 7,507 acres. It is formed to secure mule deer or improve critical mule deer range. It was the purchases were through the Pittman Robinson, so the PR grant use for purchases, and the trades of the properties that also were associated with this were the same federal aid had the same federal aid, so the stipulations apply across the whole entire WMA. The accusations started as early as 1952, and the most recent was in 2013. So big game and small game hunting and trapping are permitted on the WMA. Deer and wildlife being the most popular or most common species that are hunted, and it is quite popular with the local residents to view wildlife on the WMA during the wintertime, especially when they come down, and then during the breeding season for mule deer. So purposes of the WMA, like I said, the primary purpose was to support and improve mule deer winter range, while other benefits to other wildlife species are provided too. We allow hunting, wildlife viewing, hiking, and horseback riding. Some of the wildlife species benefited: the popular game species, mule deer, elk, wild turkey, and mourning doves. And then some of the non-game species that are also popular with or notable are bald eagles, pinyon jays, and population of spring snails. So current conditions on the WMA, it's made up of pinyon juniper forests mixed with sagebrush flats and early seral stage treatment areas. Seral stage or early seral stage is referring to grasses and forbs before the brush and browse species become established. They take longer to grow and become established in areas. Grasses and forbs, or grasses and weeds, some people would call them broadleaf species, are the ones that respond the quickest. So since 2006, 2005, around 2,500 acres have been improved for mule deer winter range, primarily mastication of pinyon and juniper trees and seeding. So these are some of the range trend sites that the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources monitors, and they have been monitoring, I believe some were back to 1980s. These are the most recent pictures. Habitat challenges that we're facing are increased cheatgrass, lack of diversity of grasses and forbs, and then degraded browse condition. And that's just mainly because of age and drought. So habitat concerns that we're dealing with are wildlife being caught in fences, particularly boundary fences, and then some internal fences. Increased amount of illegally created roads as the population's grown, and the use of ATVs and OHVs. It's more and more popular for people to go out there and, hey, looks like we can build a road here. So anyways, we deal with that. And then some of our recent habitat projects are in that early sterile stage where it lacks that browse component. So browse is important to wintering mule deer because their diet shifts to a browse shrub diet during that time. So we want to increase those browse species to make sure they have that necessary forage on the landscape. And then cheatgrass. So cheatgrass is a grass that essentially cheats other grass species out of early nutrients and water and dries up very quickly and poses a very substantial fire threat and is across the West. It's just a problem that we all deal with. So some of the habitat improvements that we addressed in the habitat management plan was increasing browse for mule deer. So this picture is a baby bitterbrush plant. It's hard to get it established, and we're constantly working as an agency to develop new methods. And this was a plant that I actually planted, and it was really exciting when I found one of these little guys from seed actually came up and made it. So we want to reduce pinyon juniper as it encroaches into important other shrub habitats or other habitats. And then we want to work in installing erosion control structures, usually mainly low-tech or handmade ones, to improve the watershed and the watershed health and functionality on the WMA.
So are you involved with is this through the Watershed Restoration Initiative, a lot of this?
Yeah, so most of these, I would say all these projects are involved through the Watershed Restoration Initiative.
With all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So part of the annual maintenance that every year we do these things, we participate in weed control. We have been working with Iron County. They're a great partner to treat invasive weeds. We have proposals in this year to do large-scale cheatgrass treatment. Hopefully that is funded and we can get it done. We have built new fence, and we're going to continue to build new fence to make it wildlife friendly. So this is an example of wildlife friendly fence. Reduces the threat of deer getting their back legs caught in the fence and then getting stuck in the wire, essentially dying what some could consider a horrible death. This makes it so they do get caught, they can roll over that top log more than get caught in it. So it's been something that we've been doing, and this was actually built in one of our most notorious areas for catching and deer unintentionally. And then road maintenance and signage. So that's something that we do every year is we try to make sure our signs are legible and that the public is informed when they go out there so they know if they're on an open or closed road. That leads to access management. So part of the WMA we have an access management plan in there. The WMA has year-round open roads, seasonally closed roads, and also just roads that are closed. And then in this plan, we have addressed that all e-bikes are considered motorized vehicles.
Even the ones that are legal on BLM?
Yeah, so we
area.
lump them in there. So all the classes of e-bikes.
All classes.
Yeah, mainly just so we didn't have to try to differentiate a whole bunch of different classes.
I get that.
So overland travel is limited to foot and horseback. And the creation of new roads is prohibited unless deemed necessary by the Division of Wildlife. And with that is the presentation. Any questions? Concerns?
No, I really appreciate all your hard work.
Well, thank you.
It's cool to see, planning and foresight. You guys do a great job. We really appreciate our relationship on all levels with the DNR in the state. It's been really good.
Well, thank you. Likewise.
It's a great area. It's close to town. People can watch the animals during the wintertime, and we appreciate that's been put there.
Yeah, it definitely is a gem. So
it is.
And with that, we'd like to give you guys opportunity to comment on that management plan. If you do have concerns or anything you'd like to address, if you could respond back to me or Gary within 2 weeks. If there's anything you see in the plan that you'd like further information about, we would love to have those comments.
You reviewed this, Mike?
Yeah, I've reviewed
And have you commented already?
I just sent him a note saying, hey, it looks good.
Okay, all right.
Do we need to do an official one from the commission? That'd be great if you'd write us something up.
Respond to the WRI proposal to do this project.
Oh,
good.
yeah.
All right. So we'll get you an official
Appreciate it.
support letter. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you very
Dan.
much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Number 5, ratification of a contract for GIS assistance for OHV trails between Wilson Geospatial, is that how you say that?
I don't know.
LLC in Iron County. Mike.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I just want to give kudos to these guys because they have done a lot of work.
They
If you
have.
go
They
up and
have.
down the corridor, I-15 and out towards Minersville, you'll see those large tracts of land that have been where the pinyon juniper have been knocked back to where it gives more habitat to the wildlife and the
Fire
livestock
breaks also,
fire breaks
which is
and
really
everything
great.
else. So it's a great service that they provide the county, and also that this Parowan Front is one of the most important wintering deer ranges in the state. When they put the freeway in, it stopped that migration that usually took place from the Paunsaugunt or the Markagaunt Plateau down off into Parowan and Cedar and over to Beckhorn Flat, and it just more or less stopped that, and our deer numbers have
Blocked it.
depleted
Yeah.
a lot because of that fence, and these guys are rehabbing that, so it's a good deal.
It's a really good thing. Yep.
Okay, what I'm here to do is, last year we got a grant to fund a geospatial or a GIS person, technician, to look at our OHV trails, our off-highway vehicle trails, and make them more user-friendly in the state. And we tried to hire somebody last year and couldn't get anybody to apply, so this year we took another stab at it and decided if we do a contract to where this individual could just work on it whenever and do what we need in the time frame that we need, then we could make it work. And that's what this is a contract between Wilson Geospatial LLC and the county, and the money comes from the grant. It doesn't come from the county general fund. So that's what it is. It allows the individual to start working in 1st of April and finish in the last of September. And it allows us to pick 15 trails to where this individual will take these popular trails and make a flyover, home in on points of interest, home in on the communities where they identify the services that the communities provide to those type of people. And it just more caters to the citizens and the riders that come in from out of state or from other surrounding communities to know where they want to go, make a good selection, and not get lost. So anyway, that's what this does.
So we have to rescue them.
Yes, yes.
All right. Any questions?
No. I'll move for the ratification of the contract for GIS assistance for OHV trails between Wilson Geospatial LLC and Iron County.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
John,
Thanks,
are
Mike.
you going to get that tested for me and so I can pick it up?
Yes.
Number 6, discussion and possible approval of Iron County to help house funding for the Parowan Prevention Coalition and be the Parowan Prevention Coalition fiscal agent for a federal grant.
Hi, my name's Heidi Baxley. I'm a prevention specialist for the Southwest Behavioral Health Center, and I'm here today in proxy for Brienne Veter. She woke up really sick this morning, but she didn't want to miss this appointment. Yeah, and this is Sarah Penner. She is the chair of the Parowan Prevention Coalition. So you guys may remember Brienne is the coordinator of the Parowan Prevention Coalition, and they've been meeting for a little bit over a year now, and they've been able to secure some state and some local grants for their prevention efforts, which has been great. But they're at the point with their coalition development that they can start applying for federal grants, which is very exciting. Similar to the grants like the Drug Free Communities grant that the Iron County Prevention Coalition has been receiving for the past 5 years, big grants that could do amazing things for Parowan. But one of the barriers that they're running into is that because they're not a 501c3, they can't house federal money. So in order to apply for this drug-free communities grant, they need to find a partner within the community that would be willing to serve as the fiscal agent. So she had intended on coming here today to ask whether the county would be interested in partnering together on this grant opportunity and serving as the fiscal agent for a drug-free communities grant. And she totally understands if this is not something that you're interested in, but we thought we couldn't hurt to ask.
What is our? Go ahead.
Oh, who does the Cedar City one? The
the-
Cedar City?
Yeah, well, it's Iron County. So we started as an Iron County Prevention Coalition. We've been going strong for about 10 years now. And now we've decided to focus, we'll continue our countywide coalition, but we're going to start coalitions in smaller areas to focus
So
on
we already
prevention
do
efforts.
that.
Yep. So we've partnered with the Family Support Center of Southwestern Utah for our fiscal agent in Cedar City. Yeah, for the Iron County Prevention Coalition. But
So we're just a sponsor. Do we have any obligation? Do we just?
no, you would be the fiscal agent. So the money would be housed and run through the county, but the coalition would be the one in charge of implementing the action plan, making sure they oversee the budget, that kind of thing.
I wish Luke was. still
Yeah.
here.
He just barely walked
He just
out.
barely walked out.
Yeah, will you
Grab him.
grab him if he's
Grab him.
available right there?
He probably
Yeah, and I've worked with Heidi over the years with the Iron County, with the other program.
Yep.
I'm talked out. I had to talk a lot this morning. I'm done. I'm talked out for the day. No, they do some really. I mean, you guys do awesome work, and we've always had a really great partnership. So
I think even with the Parowan Prevention Coalition, I haven't been involved for long. I got hired in October. But we've already done a lot of really amazing things just with the smaller grants that we have. And so I can't imagine how much more of an impact we could make with a federal grant with this much money. We just need the right systems in place in order to make that happen.
So what's your thoughts on this request for us being a sponsor and to be?
It's just a go
facilitate?
through for their federal grants. They need a.
Have you looked at this?
Fiscal agent.
No, I didn't.
So Beaver County
Anything about
partnered
it?
with their coalition. So
Okay.
it is happening in other areas.
Other areas.
You wouldn't be like piloting a new thing or anything.
So-
but-
Just a grant that basically we would manage, it would go through us.
Yeah.
It's a federal grant,
Just-
has to go to a 501c3, which the coalition is not, so.
Are there any strings for the county or any obligations that you know of at all?
No, I mean, you would provide oversight to make sure that we're not misspending the money, but I would hope that wouldn't be an issue.
No.
We follow the CFR just like every other federal grant.
So it'd just be a line item. Is that how we would
And what's the money gonna be used for?
Prevention, substance use prevention.
prevention?
Oh, I should have spelled that out, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like we'd basically just receive the money and then spend the same amount of money. It's not like we're. Pass
It's just a pass through.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would we write the checks? We would.
Yes,
We would
yeah.
write the checks. Yeah.
Okay.
We would draw down the funding, but we would write into the grant money to pay for the whoever that's doing it for their time, so it wouldn't be taking away from county time.
Are you okay with this, Luke?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
that'd be
little
fine.
added work for
Want to
you.
get me some more details on
Yeah,
it?
we can
and- What's the time frame on?
The grant is due April 11th, which I realize is a pretty quick turnaround, so we,
Okay.
I mean.
I was just gonna say, with a little more time, Luke could actually visit with a few of his colleagues and.
Yeah. If it doesn't work out this year, we can always try again next year.
And then when do you receive the money?
We would know by September, and the grant would start October 1.
Oh, okay.
So the application.
That would give you quite a bit of
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have pass-throughs, other pass-throughs that we do, don't we? Right, yeah.
And I'd just like to comment. I mean, I'm really familiar with these guys. They're a well-established organization. This isn't anything new. I mean, I would be comfortable in partnering. I mean, it's a well-established organization. I mean, Southwest Behavioral Health is where, I mean, it all
Parowan's the new coalition, but
Exactly.
Parowan's a new
It's-
coalition,
yeah.
but it's not like they're out on their own.
no,
Nowhere.
no.
Right. I mean, I would be really comfortable with this just because of my 10-year history with the organization, with the coalition. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have no hesitation in supporting this.
They have this program. What was it in Kane? I think. No, they have a
Yeah,
program in
in
Kane
all
that's
five
very
counties.
successful. So
Yep.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, should we? I would move for approval of the Iron County to help house funding for the Parowan Prevention Coalition and to be a Parowan Prevention Coalition fiscal agent for the federal grant.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much.
Thank you.
If you want some more information, those packets that I handed out just kind of have shown what we've
Okay.
been doing over the
We
last
probably,
year.
have
so.
you got one?
Yep.
We'll get one to,
Thank you.
We've
Luke.
got an extra.
yep.
All right, 7. Are we good to keep going? I am. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Already
keep-
let's push through.
Let's go.
7, discussion and possible approval of annexation proposal creating an island or peninsula of unincorporated land. Proposed annexation into Cedar City Corporation, approximately 41.7 acres, located within the description on the agenda. And this is, the applicant is Eldon Ashworth Living Trust.
Ashdown.
Ashdown.
Oh, Ashdown, sorry. Presented by Reed.
Good morning, Commissioner. I will make one correction on the legal description. We found out after we had posted the agenda that we had the wrong legal description. So what this should read is that it's within the northeast of Section 1, Township 36, Range 12 West, and the northeast quarter of Section 6, 36, Range 11 West.
Did you get that to John?
Yeah, I had
He
emailed
did.
it to him
We-
before.
I decided it wasn't substantial enough a change to repost the agenda.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
wanted to
I
make
wanted to
note
talk
of it
that
so
through
that
with
we
you.
use the right one on our approval,
Okay.
assuming it will be approved. But in the discussion,
In the discussion.
I got a call from BLM saying, "What are you doing trying to annex BLM in Range 12, Section 1?" And
They actually realized?
Lenny McConnell called me up and he's like, "What's going on?" I said, "Well,
I
Wow.
told John it's the last time I'm going to
Trust.
take it off of an annexation plat that an engineer prepared and put it on the agenda.
You
I'm
just
gonna
do
have
it.
to
Yeah.
review those a little closer, I guess. So
Oh, wow.
anyway, it was partially right, but it didn't include the portion in Range 12. So anyway, this, as you're familiar and aware, these are by state law required approvals and agreements with the county if it's within an island or peninsula of the annexation creating an unincorporated section. So this was in Cedar City. This is the annexation plat, and you can see right here, this was the legal description that I took off and put on the agenda, but it's incorrect. So what the property is located, it's 41 acres located right here in this existing peninsula. So here is the city boundary right here. Here's Equestrian Point, 3900 West, Highway 56. So 1600 North runs right along here. So if you're familiar with the area, this is a long skinny piece that runs along here. So it's adjacent on the south side to Cedar City. And they want to subdivide this property, and under our process, in order for them to get central water, the Water Conservancy District doesn't have water, and so it's much easier for them to tie onto the Cedar City system and get water and sewer and create a subdivision there. They want to break it up into 5-acre lots. So that's what this one is, and it's you can see here just a little bit bigger. In the existing peninsula, the way we calculate that, of course, is to measure around the perimeter of the property that's left, touching unincorporated and incorporated area, and then measure the shortest distance at any location across that opening. And if it's less than 25%, then by definition it's a peninsula, and that's why it requires county approval. The Planning Commission did recommend approving, as the philosophy that we've had as a policy to continue to fill in existing peninsulas, and where they're adjacent and they're eligible to annex and the services are there. It doesn't impede or create any difficulty for remaining property to either have access or to have services available to them that the county is currently providing. So that's one of the major qualifiers that we're concerned about, is if that annexation results in difficulty for the remaining properties, then we may not be as likely to agree to the annexation. But in the event that it doesn't create any difficulty for any remaining properties from having access or services, then and it in fact enhances the ability for them to be able to develop and get services, then we were supportive of that. So the Planning Commission, this is our checklist that we review with
Cedar City, and every time we have an annexation proposal that leaves an island or peninsula, we sit down with the applicant and the county and the city, and we go through this checklist to make sure that all of those things are addressed. And then summary, this is essentially what it deals with: eligibility, roads and access services, impacts on remaining properties, compatibility for existing land uses and proposed land uses, any consideration of a pre-annexation agreement for other properties that may not qualify for annexation at this point, and then any municipal hindrances that would cause difficulty for the property to annex or other property to be able to annex. And so with that review, the Planning Commission recommended to consent, approve, or whatever you want to call it, agree to the annexation. And that now would require an action of the County Commission.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Sure. That yours?
I don't know.
It is.
Okay. I was looking at, I didn't remember. I'll move for approval of the annexation proposal creating an island or peninsula of unincorporated land. It's proposed annexation into Cedar City Corporation of approximately 41.7 acres that is located within the updated legal description as provided to the clerk's office.
Thank you.
I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8.
Very same situation, leaving in an existing peninsula and leaving a peninsula. This is in Parowan, annexation proposed to, as the Holyoke Lane 200 South here. When they annexed a lot of that area, they just went back a distance off and went through and split all of those lots and just annexed 300 feet back off the road and created a large situation that leaves, as you can see right here, they just took distance back and it split all these lots through here. It wasn't something we would do today, but it was done a long time ago. And you can see that the property is within an existing peninsula right here. This is, as the peninsula exists currently, it's at 16%, so it's well below the 25% minimum. The property is the old ACE, True Value property. It has a chain link, and the back part of the property, this is 1.16 acres, I believe. In fact, I think the applicant is sitting right here representing the property, Jenny Hendricks. And it, as you evaluate it this way, even in the existing peninsula, it's still 24%. So it's just the back side of that property, and it just makes sense in every way to be annexed into Parowan City and to complete the lot as a whole lot instead of it being split between. A lot of those properties were split essentially by portion of them being in the city and portion of them being in the county, and that's why we try not to have that happen anymore. This was one of those vestiges of a really terrible annexation many years ago that actually split a bunch of properties. That's why there's front half, back half on all these all the way down Holyoke Lane. And we tried, and especially, as we visit with the municipalities about these and their engineers as they prepare the annexation plat, to say, are there other opportunities while we're here to annex additional properties? The last one that we did for the I can't remember
RV
the new
Park?
name. Evil Water. Over there. Fotheringham. Scott Fotheringham. We did pick up a couple of additional properties to include in that annexation. This one wasn't, just because it's so small, and the others are
Doesn't
just.
have anything.
Most people want to just leave it alone. They've got what they've got, and they're not doing anything. So, and that's okay, but it just made sense in this case. So the Planning Commission also recommended consent, and we're requesting action by the County Commission.
Just cleaned it up, huh?
Yep.
I would move for approval of an annexation proposal creating an island or peninsula of unincorporated land, proposed annexation into Parowan City Corporation, approximately 1.16 acres, and the description there on agenda item number 8.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
9, discussion and possible approval of natural gas service agreement with Dominion Energy, Utah for Iron County Sheriff and Jail Building. Mike, do you want? talk about that? I remember back a long time ago we approved a deal and it was saved us some money at the time.
Basically what it is Summit Energy came and proposed they buy the gas and sell us the gas based on the Rocky Mountain Index, and we still pay Dominion Energy to get it to us, the same amount as we do if they buy it. And it kind of got put in and kind of got ignored. Utilities just pay them every month. And those of you that know January, one of the things that changed that Rocky Mountain Index, their gas lines are interconnected all the way back to New York. So this has been a strange year. So somebody as far away as New York can bid on that gas in that index. And that's what happened this year. And we ended up with a $65,000 gas bill in January.
And it's normally what?
10.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this was saving us a little bit each month, but that was just. And I've done a lot of time looking at it. If the gas prices are way down, they can save us some. If they're up, they won't. Dominion is controlled by the Public Service Commission. They make nothing on the gas. They make all their money on transmission, and we pay that same price whether we get it from them or Summit. So in looking at it, that 1 month that's potentially can happen at any time in the winter especially, offset any gains, any savings we had by tens of thousands of dollars. And I don't think it's wise to stick with them. Everything looks like in the long run we're better off. They offer to do a fixed rate, but that fixed rate is higher than Dominion's is. So to switch back to Dominion, they require just a 2-year contract. So that's just get the okay to sign to stay with them for 2 years. And I don't see ever leaving Dominion again because that one month by far counteracted everything we've saved, anything we possibly saved, which I think is only a few $1,000s. So.
All right.
When I first saw this, I thought maybe it was the new. So will this go with the new jail complex,
this is
or
just our gas service? This building,
just to this building?
All it is Dominion requires if you switch back, because they have to switch meters. They want a 2-year contract to switch back. Otherwise, we would have already switched back. They only allow you to switch once a year, and they say if you switch, stay with us at least 2 years. And I've studied this extensively, and I see no reason ever to go back to Summit because it's a gamble, and we lost in January for the entire time we've been with them.
So we won't have to do this again when we go to the new.
We'll get a new gas. We'll get a new GS gas service in the new building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Whoops.
Number 9.
Number 9. Okay. It's Mike.
Hey, you're on a roll. Go with it.
That's why.
Go with it.
That's why I was confused.
I'll move for approval of natural gas GS service agreement with Dominion Energy Utah for the Iron County Sheriff and Jail Building.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
10, discussion of possible approval for grant for Burrell Fire Department FEMA assistance to firefighter grant for the purchase of a water tender pumper. Ryan Riddle. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. How are you today?
Wow.
Well, that's a terrible question to ask. I've been here most of the day, and I know how your day's been.
It's been way worse.
It's yeah. First of all, just thank you for all the work that you guys do.
Kind of numb at this point.
I tell you, I want you to know how much I appreciate all the work you guys do, beyond what you do for us in fire. So the reason I'm coming to you today is we applied for a grant through the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA?
Administration.
Thank you, John.
Just FEMA.
Through
Don't
FEMA.
try and make them sound fancy.
Through FEMA for the Assistance to Firefighters Assistance Grant program to replace 2 apparatus in Burrell Fire Department. Those apparatus are a 1976 Dodge and a 1977 Kenworth. The 76 Dodge actually couldn't pump water anymore.
The problem.
It was just tired?
It had expired beyond.
He did not have one then.
It's
didn't
crazy.
have one.
Hey, Mike, could you open those doors, please? Thank you.
And we actually was able to dispose of a dozen vehicles in Burrell in our attempt to get them up to speed and to try and move that equipment up to current or closer to current standards. And so we've cleaned that up. We have one vehicle left that Wade's working on to get through the disposal process, and then we'll have all of those vehicles that didn't run and or were mechanically unsafe disposed of, with the exception of one vehicle, which is still a critical piece of equipment for the Burrell Fire Department, but it's got a broken frame and over 1 million miles, which is the 1977.
1 million miles.
Over 1 million miles.
Is that the tender?
Yeah.
So are they gonna keep that? It could probably be
no.
fixed. No. Okay.
How would you have 1 million miles on a tender?
They picked it up used from a local, I believe it was a rancher, and I think the rancher actually got it used from a construction company.
It's been,
So I mean, it's
been around the block.
Kenworth.
all right.
I don't even know that it was actually built to be a water tender in the first place. So maybe
that's why the frame broke.
Yeah. So
Does it pound all the world round?
It's quite the process.
Probably true.
So 2 years ago, back in 2021, we applied for the grant, which they told us if we hadn't heard anything by September that we weren't awarded. Fast forward to today, and we were awarded the grant. We got the letter a couple of weeks ago, and Luke and I reviewed it, we were successful with it. The grant is, got to get to the right paperwork. FEMA is willing to grant us $619,000.
How much?
$619,000.
Even?
And some change, 619,047.61 to be exact.
Okay.
And then we have some matching funds that the county's obligated to. So the minimum obligation is let me make sure I get this right. The minimum obligation was, I think, $30,952.39.
$30,952.39.
Correct. Now, what has happened between the application and current time, as you can imagine,
Here it comes.
A couple of hurdles. One, we spec'd the apparatus on a Peterbilt chassis, and PACCAR, Peterbilt and Kenworth, are no longer providing chassis to fire apparatus manufacturers because they're making more money on the commercial side. So we're not able to get the chassis we originally spec'd. Our chassis options are Freightliner and International. Talking with the vendor, International's the best fit, and prices weren't far enough apart to be that big of a deal. And Freightliner doesn't offer a four-door chassis heavy enough to meet our needs in this. So we've got some hurdles there. The price increased, as you can expect with everything, the last 2 years. I'm still working with the vendor. We just had such a short amount of time to try and tie all this together. As we're sitting right now, the difference in cost is...
They have to build this, or do they have it in stock?
No, they'll have to build it.
And how long does that take?
24 to 29 months from the time we order it.
Will they guarantee the price once we order it?
The price is locked. Once we sign the paperwork, the price is locked. So in addition to FEMA's money, the county would bring $96,903.39 to the table to
That's
complete.
including the $30,000 that you mentioned?
Say that one more time, Ryan.
What's
Yes.
that? Yes.
96,000.
$96,903.39.
903.39.
Correct. And that also includes the equipment on the truck. So we're taking 2 trucks, building one, and it will meet all of the national standards, equipment, everything will be on that truck basically ready to go, with the exception of some minor things that we'll work through budget on.
Did we budget for? We didn't budget for that much, though, right?
Not quite, no. Working with Luke, we're short on the budget.
Are we okay in Fund 11? Are we okay in Fund 11 for this?
550 is what we had budgeted, but
Okay.
we're gonna have to spend that extra, 100,000, 98,000 over the next 2 years. So,
And it won't be here for 2 years, so we should be able
So we
to
can continue to budget for
budget
that.
for
Lock it
that.
in, then budget the excess.
Mhm.
Okay. We should be okay in that fund for that.
yeah.
Okay.
I've been working a lot with Lucas and the vendor, and we're still working out a few details with the vendor. So I expect that number to actually come down. But yeah, let's be safe rather than sorry, so we don't have to do it twice. So today, what we're asking is that the commission approve the grant for the $619,047.61, and if that's approved today, then Luke will accept the grant, and then we can move forward on the apparatus and better dial in that 96,000. Because, like I say, there's some things in the process that I think we can bring that 96,000 down. When
is the matching due? Do we know?
So we were just looking at that, and we would 10% of the purchase price after order is accepted and entered by the manufacturer. So we sign the paperwork, and 10% of the purchase price is paid, and then 20% of the purchase price is after completion of the approval drawing. So and then 30% of the purchase price upon the material requisition. So we're looking at 2 years before they deliver this thing. So I'm guessing at least a year before we have to have the 60% up front. So,
well, in other words, it's not something that we need to do an imminent budget adjustment.
No.
Our county does. Okay.
Just
we've
ongoing.
got some time. Yep.
Yeah. By the time that becomes payable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if we get this $619,000 grant, I mean, we'll be able to hold on to most of it for 2 years until that final payment's due.
Perfect.
Ready for a motion? Yep. I'd move for approval for the grant for Borough Fire Department FEMA Assistance to Firefighter Grant for the purchase of a water tender pumper for the $619,047.61. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate all your work on this stuff, including the.
Yeah, you missed out us thanking you earlier.
Yeah, we praised you.
We praised you, and you wasn't even here to hear it.
It's really my pleasure. It honestly is. I know this is a heavy lift for everybody, and it takes a village to raise a child, and I just like to be a part of that village to help raise those kids.
Man, we have been able to make such leaps to improve the West Desert
Yes.
departments over the last few years. That's been so cool, and I mean, we couldn't have done it without your coordination and help with Mike Phillips and really all the Chiefs Association. When we meet quarterly as a Fire Chiefs Association, and this is, I mean, these items are discussed all the time, and we have full support of all the departments in the county. I mean, I don't think we have a county fire system. I mean, all these agencies that work together, I don't think we have. I mean, there's not better coordination between agencies anywhere.
Well, and I mentioned in our steering committee meeting, because it could have gone either way on that other truck, and I appreciated the Washington County folks, commissioner and mayor, moving and seconding that motion.
That's awesome.
Because I didn't know if they would, and I give Commissioner Alm, because I mentioned to him that this will benefit Washington County, because we help Enterprise and they help us, right?
Yep.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's a good thing. But tell them this is their Christmas and birthday presents for 20 years.
It's an unprecedented time for the West Desert. Neither of those departments have ever had anything new. So this is really unprecedented. And personally, I pride myself on building relationships. I've got good relationships with the mayor there in Enterprise and the commissioners in Washington County. And and again, that's where so much of this can come, is where we're not building kingdoms. We're not doing anything more than providing a service that the public expects from us, and being good stewards of the public's money. And that's truly one of the most important things that I can do, is provide people what they're asking for.
Well, this has to help with, morale and
absolutely.
volunteerism, and to have a new fire station in Newcastle and new trucks. It's got to make them just feel better about their opportunities and volunteerism. So.
And you guys will see a better picture of what's happened over the last year and the last couple of years when I come back in July and give my updated presentation. I'll update and present out on all of the grants that we've received, I can't think off the top of my head, but I think we've received probably close to a half a dozen grants. And I mean, this year alone, we are likely looking at close to $2 million in funding through grant programs to help those guys out there. So again, a lot of work, and appreciate the support by the commission and others, and appreciate the kind words.
Well,
and
we do. We appreciate everything you do to help these projects.
We really,
happen.
I really appreciated working with Luke over the last year. When you kind of were in your alternate role for a while, and we're happy to have you back. And I mean, that is nothing against Luke. I mean, it was a pleasure to work with Luke.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys make a great team. We're really lucky to have you guys in our county. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
you.
I appreciate the job that I do, and I'm very happy to be back. So
Good. We're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
11, discussion approval of special use permit with Dixie National Forest for the operation and maintenance of communication equipment for blowhard communication site. Are you handling that one,
I
George?
think I can speak to that.
I thought that's why you were sticking
George,
around.
you look like you're all knowing. Do you know anything
Gonna
about
speak to
this?
Say again.
Do you want
George
to
is just
about
waiting
it?
for lunch.
The-
We had this. We
the
texted the little
blowhard,
Lunch.
the blowhard maintenance equipment, the communication equipment that's going up blowhard.
Yes. I need some.
Okay,
I need some.
is that a motion?
That's,
Go ahead.
Do we need to? Do you want to talk about it for a minute?
Oh.
Oh, I
Are
can.
we
I can
okay?
speak
Are we
quickly.
good? I mean,
You're good.
you
It's,
know about it, Mike?
No,
so this is
not.
I don't know
I mean,
Yeah.
in generally, but I don't know I know that we need to do a special. I know that we need to do it.
this is the re-up of our contract to operate the blowhard site.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's
It's
That's
not
the Forest
new.
Service, right?
and no.
The
Well,
US
it's on the
Forest Service.
Dixie, but
It's
yeah.
on the Dixie.
So it's a special
They've
use
done all the
permit that we're
NEPA and all
renewing.
of that.
Okay,
This-
it's
these
just
are
a
the
use
sites
permit.
that
Got
were originally, and Luke can address this too. These sites. I have some of the public safety communication sites that come under me originally. That Gold Coast comes under. Then it was split up, and the sheriff had some. The sheriff's office had some, and we decided here in January to just move all that over to my office. So that line item that came from the sheriff's just moved over to me. So I inherited all of the communications sites in the county.
Okay.
And we need them all.
All right, very good.
And frankly, this is, and I know you guys are trying to move along. I'll pass that over while I talk. But this is a great improvement over where we were. There were a time, one of the big lessons from September 11th, 2001 was the different agencies weren't able to talk to each other very well. And George and Commissioner Blake and our IT guys and gals have kind of helped that so that the communication, not only the tabletop exercises, but the channels, the frequencies, the availability, the protocol are all in place for better communication in an event. And I appreciate that.
Again, I want to give props back
Brian.
to the fire chiefs.
Thank you, George.
George is also, a part of that discussion quarterly, and we never have a meeting without beating communications to death, and that's why, again, we're so successful in our area.
Well, since we're talking about, and I don't want
And I
to
hate to give props to firemen. I'm a cop,
Yep.
That is
Don't
no
get
lie.
trying to get
lost in
right,
him.
but it's fine.
But they do feed better than we do. So,
Better than me.
No,
well, no, not better than you.
no,
He took a shot at you, but just
Just go on.
Even the sheriff and I agree that firemen always feed better than law enforcement. No doubt about that. Since we brought up, this is something that I've been, I came here before you guys last year, in the last year, switching my radios over. We need, and we tried to put in for some state money. It was left over from COVID, and the state turned us down for radios. We really badly, and I know that we probably can't afford it, but I just want to go on record as saying that where'd the sheriff go? Oh, how many more 800s do you think we need?
Didn't the legislature appropriate some money? Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And Ryan, how many more do we need for fire?
So the state
Sherry.
is contracting through L3 Harris, and the money that they appropriated was to purchase L3 Harris radios, which is fine, but I went to a meeting with the Utah Communications Authority here a while back, and they had the three vendors, Motorola, Kenwood, and L3 Harris all there. They all showed us their products, and there's a huge difference, in my opinion, between the durability of Motorola and the other two vendors. And so,
Why on earth did they give it to them, the
I don't know.
contract?
I don't know. It was a huge thing. It started off with Motorola, and then it went into a court battle, and
I
the
hope
court
that's not
ruled in-
because
the court
somebody's
ruled in
buddy,
favor of
somebody's
L3
buddy.
Harris, and L3 Harris ended up getting the contract, but I don't know all the details behind it. But that's kind of the history behind it. So
Do they not talk to each other? Or
well,
they do?
They do. You can use any one of the radios, and it'll work on the system. And we saw this coming for the last several years, and so we've been making the change over the years. And right now, the sheriff's office is in pretty good shape. We've got, for the most part, all the radios that we need. We may need to buy onesies and twosies here and there. But from my perspective, is I would rather stay with the Motorola's and make sure that they're kind of cop-proof, and we don't just break them.
And I've used
It's a lot
different
of money.
radios, different handheld radios, especially over the years. Kenwood, Motorola, some others. You just don't go away from Motorola. You'll end up spending more money in maintenance and replacement costs when you move away from Motorola for public safety.
And
My
one of the
humble
things
opinion.
with Harris is that they offered a very discounted radio for anybody who wanted to jump on theirs, and so a lot of departments did. But I'm in full agreement with the sheriff that they're not going to hold up as well, and it would not be in the best interest of any agency to buy those and spend the extra money, buy the Motorola's, which are going to
So
be.
is it just a discount? It's not, I thought that they were actually going to give those to us, no?
No, it's a discount.
Just a
It's
discount.
a grant, so it's kind of like a matching grant, is they'll give you a deferred rate, basically, is what it is.
We okay, John? We're kind of veered off the agenda here.
Well, there can
That-
be no.
On the blowhard.
I know,
No, well,
communication.
it's this is under.
Related, okay.
Yeah, and you're not going to take any action on radios,
No.
but it's a good conversation about radios.
Yeah, all right.
So
Just want to make sure.
you're.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, I wasn't going to let anything that came up about communication escape without throwing in.
So kind of going back to George's question, is from the sheriff's perspective, right now we're in pretty good shape. We'll need to get more radios in the future.
Can you sign something right now saying
Right
that?
now, we don't really need anything. As far as all the volunteer fire departments within the county, I don't know what their need is. I think that they probably have a pretty good need, and Ryan and
So I was able to get. Could you come to the microphone, Ryan, just so we can? Sorry, thanks. Sorry, no worries. So I was able to get some funding, 2 years ago to try and get started to help these guys with what their needs are. So right now we can communicate. I think we spent close to $100,000. I think is the money that I got. So we got several of them. I want to say 15 to 20 of them into the smaller departments. So they have the radios. They have the ability to communicate. However, it's kind of one radio per department type situation. So we're working to get the radios into each seated position, which is the national standard. And it's just when we get some funding available, we take advantage of it and grants and creative funding through other sources. So we're just kind of plucking away with it. The Cedar City is in really good shape. Cedar City Fire Department's in really good shape. Of course, they're the busiest department in the county. And so they've reached out and got some funding sources, and they're looking pretty good.
most of the money that I got went into Burrell and Newcastle to get them up to speed. So they're okay. But as we continue to go around and replace old radios and try and get everybody in a seated position of radio, then yeah, we're going to have some future needs. But I attended the same meeting and have the same opinion as the sheriff on the radios. So.
Well, and one of the hurdles for fire that's not necessarily a hurdle for law enforcement is that in order to deal with our federal partners in the fire in wildland fires, you 800. You can't just have an 800. You got to have a UHF. So you either have to buy 2 radios, and everybody's got to carry 2 radios, or you have to buy a dual band, and dual bands are very expensive.
Yeah.
A single radio costs they're up to
about $7,000
now for a handheld dual band, and that's a real hurdle for fire.
That's expensive.
How discounted is the other radios that they're? I mean, is it worth it because you're shy on the others to get a few and then replace them? I mean, I just am asking. They're not worth even having, or what?
For me, I didn't really have a need, so I didn't look at the program in very much depth because I really didn't have the need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't going to change my mind. So
Yeah.
I really haven't looked at it. I don't know if you looked at it in more detail.
Yeah, so it's based off of the dynamics of a county. So, and John, you can help me out with this. Each county's a little bit different based off of population. There's a
3.
We're
3
class-
county.
yeah.
Class
So
3
the
county.
thank you. Classification, that's the word I was looking for. The classification of the county determines the depth of the discounts.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that I have with fire is if we start mixing radios, then we don't have interoperability between the radio components. So the microphone, the charging unit, the spare batteries,
Yeah, you'd
now
have to
you're
have 2
having
different ones.
duplication.
True.
And the user programs in those radios are a little bit different. It's just like jumping in a Dodge versus a Chevy. The controls are
shift
different.
and-
You know, everything's just a little bit different. So there's a training component that comes up with it and a potential hazard for miscommunication where somebody's turning a wrong knob or messing with the radio. So the
get it.
discounts for Iron County, looking at all things included, interoperability between the units, it's safer and much more efficient, I think, for us to stick with the same radios, the same vendor as the other agencies.
Let's lobby Utah next year to get some discounts on the radios that we want to use.
You know, that's actually a good discussion for interim because
Yeah.
toward the end of the legislative session, they were looking for law enforcement and public safety places to spend money, and radios would be a great place, it seems.
So kind of going along that line, we've been working with Congressman Stewart's office where they think that they've got some funding coming available, but they're really for more big ticket type things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at doing some things like replacing our MRAPs with some more modern armored vehicles and easier to navigate and whatnot, and doing some different things like that. But Congressman Stewart's office thinks that this is going to be kind of a every year thing, at least over the next probably 3 or 4 years. So that may be, you know, something that we can look at here next year. We had a really short time period on this. It's got to
Yep.
be in like the end
Wednesday.
of this week.
It's got to be in Wednesday.
So
What are we doing,
so it was really
Richard?
really short. But,
Okay.
but it may be something that, you know, next year
Yeah.
that we can
Put forward.
look
Yeah.
forward at that and look at what, you know, fire needs as far as radios and see if there's any law enforcement need for any additional radios at that point.
That's a
Okay.
good idea. And just so you know, we did commission did a letter of support for that application. I'll get that to Darren this afternoon to include with that application. So we did that.
Yep.
Luke, if you get that signature on the way out, we'll use that against him in the budget.
Just as in clarification.
I've never heard the sheriff say he's
for
good.
clarification for Rich specifically, I was only talking about radios. I want to make sure I get that on public.
All right.
I'm going to move to approve the special use permit with Dixie National Forest for the operation and maintenance of communication equipment for Blowhard Communication Site.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Discussion and possible approval of election service contract with K&H Integrated Print Solutions for Iron County by mail balloting services.
Okay, I won't take too much time because we've used a lot of time. Basically, we put the balloting services out to bid. I approached about 5 different companies. I had 3 respond. One said, "Oh, we don't do that anymore." Okay, and then another one that said, "Oh, our capacity's full." So we had between the top ones, Runbeck, K&H, and ES&S that I reached out to. K&H was the only one that responded. Now I will say K&H was the one I was hoping. I visiting with my colleagues and their experience with them. I was hoping that they would bid, and I was leaning toward them anyway.
They've had good success
They
with
have.
them.
So yes, many counties have, and by comparison, we had been using the last election services provider in Utah, and they fell down again on this election, and there were some systemic things that K&H naturally does that are better. So one of the things that K&H does is they lump all of the Utah ballots together and put them on a secured USPS truck. And now state law requires that the ballots are mailed from Utah. So basically there's a seal on that truck, and it goes from their outfit in Oregon to a mail facility in Utah, and they're all mailed together. Another good thing that came out from our emergency last time that was terrible is I was in contact with 25 different people. With K&H, in the case of any kind of an issue, there would be one point of contact. They have the scale to be able to do elections and to be able to manage that for us. When it came to price, it's a little tough to discern. On materials, there may be 20 cents lower as far as the envelope, the return envelope, and the ballot, but they're a little bit more on the administration. They have a couple of things that are pretty awesome. They have individualized envelopes per county. When we went with CAR, I helped Lloyd design the return envelope, and we used the same one for about 8 different counties. Whereas these guys, they'll actually spray on like the Iron County logo right onto the envelope. Another really cool thing that they do that Lloyd could never figure out, that CAR could never figure out, was they will do an "I voted" sticker. And it's funny how many people feel strongly about it. I do too. I wish we could put, because right, and so as it turns out, I just running the numbers. It depends on the size of the election. It depends on the number of ballots, the number of races. This is going to be, depending on the election, anywhere from 5 to 20% more money, and that's what we lose from moving away from a local outfit. And one of these big national ones is they're not going to cut us the same break.
Where are they located?
These guys are in Oregon. I don't remember the town. Anyway, Oregon.
Just wondering if you're going to fly up there and pitch your tent outside the babysit this.
Is it okay to swear in commission meeting?
I did earlier.
I hope the hell not.
Mike already did it earlier.
Election people.
Paul and Sam.
We pray for short lines and wide margins, and no delays on our damn ballots.
Yep.
So anyway, so K&H is the only vendor that put in a bid. They were the vendor that I hoped for. They have the security that I'm looking for. They have all the national credentials that you have to have as a ballot services provider, including the printing part and the distribution part. They've already been tremendously professional to work with. Assuming this is approved today, we'll begin the onboarding process. If not this week, next. My liaison there was on vacation, but anyway, I'm pretty excited that they bid. I was a little disappointed that we didn't have other bids, but honestly, I was hoping for K&H. So.
Okay, thank you. Motion.
I'd move for approval of the election service contract with K&H Integral Print Solutions for Iron County by mail balloting service.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Discussion and possible approval of tax forgiveness due to indigence and failure to apply for abatement.
Okay, so this is a special situation. We've kind of talked this through a little bit between the assessor, the auditor's office, and the treasurer's office, and Commissioner Cousins. This was a situation of extreme indigence, and this person had to move out of her house and didn't receive the update. She thought applying for the abatement was a once-off thing. And so what they're asking for is a forgiveness of last year's taxes, which they would have had abated had they applied. And they know now she's been very involved and contacted each of our offices and understands very thoroughly what to do now. So she's asking for the 2022 tax year forgiveness due to those circumstances. Also, it's worth noting, most of the times when we have these conversations, it's folks that have let it go for 5 years. This person, she didn't let it go for like 5 weeks. I mean, she was Johnny on the spot, and she just can't absorb the cost that got rolled onto her mortgage. So,
Do you know what the number is?
It's the APN number.
No, the
amount.
Yeah.
Oh, number. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
amount. Sorry.
Good question.
I was talking about one thing and didn't get ready for the next.
Because I didn't read the number. We need to enter the number on the record. APN A-976-43.
Uh-oh. Let's do this. I have everything but that number.
It's all right.
It's okay.
I'm just curious. I'm not.
Yeah.
Not a deal breaker.
I want to say in the 900 range. It's a home in Enoch.
I think it's, something.
But my paperwork doesn't actually have
Okay.
our tax sheet, which is unfortunate.
Okay.
But it is APN A-976-43.
Okay. I'll move for approval of tax forgiveness due to indigence and failure. Oh.
$12.99.45.
Oh. Okay.
Nicole must have been listening.
12.
$12.99. Oh, it went away. And
Okay.
45 cents.
45 cents.
I'll move for approval of the tax forgiveness due to indigence and failure to apply for abatement, APN A-976-43, in the amount of $12.99.45.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we'll now convene as the Board of Equalization and go to item number 14, discussion and possible approval of 2023 property tax exemptions, which have been submitted by religious, educational, or charitable organizations requesting tax exempt status on personal or real property for the 2023 tax year.
Come on down.
How do you pronounce your first name? Teresa?
It's Cherisha.
Cherisha, okay. Thank you. Been so much change in your office, we got to get to know you.
Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate your face in that seat, and we'd like you to stay for a while.
Thanks.
Yeah, don't be running off.
Appreciate it. All right, so this is a list of all the properties that have either been renewed or asked for are new properties. There's 4 highlighted in yellow on the front page, and those are all of the new properties. There's also a partial property that's been moved from partial to a full property exemption. And all these properties have submitted the proper paperwork for exemptions. The new amount is, for the new properties as well as including the partial, is $6,462.35.
Do they have to do this every year?
Yes.
Because I've been involved with Happy Factory for years, and I'm just wondering, I assume Donna Cooley
Does
takes
it
care
every
of that,
year.
but I'm thinking down the road when
Yeah.
things change, we have somebody to take care of these things for us.
I guess with the other abatement too, I guess they're told probably that they have to do this every year.
Yeah, we communicate that, and that's one of those
They
things
just
that
sometimes
you know,
kind of forget.
if they miss it or whatever. But
The religious ones, I think all of them know, but
Yeah.
but an individual.
Yeah. If
Maybe
they
Luke
forget,
has
we
something.
try to reach out. So
Yeah.
that's.
and I will say it is kind of a hallmark of the courthouse and of Iron County that we don't let the grass grow under things like this, or like when people are late on taxes or things, to at least let them know, and we
Get
always
it.
appreciate that.
Get a hold of them and
Yeah.
And on, I was just gonna say on like, I don't know about this one for sure, but like the other abatements, like John was talking about the lady that missed it, we mail out the application to them every year.
oh
So they actually get it in the mail and then
oh yeah
mail it back.
yeah, very good.
So Charisha, the 6,462 and 35 represent the new ones in yellow that weren't.
Yeah.
Kind of
So that's the taxes on from last year's numbers, the taxes on those properties, including the 4 on the front page as well as the one for Henry's Place. Like I said, it's moving from a partial to, there's a partial to a full because they build a new building and are having that involved in the exemption in the June, I believe, is when that takes place. Okay. Any
We're
questions?
probably ready for a motion?
Yep.
I'd move for approval of the 2023 property tax exemption, which has been submitted by religious, educational, or charitable organizations requiring tax exempt status on personal or a real property for the 2023 tax year.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll reconvene as the Iron County Commission now and go to 15, personnel. Jennifer, are you through?
Do we have to sign, all three of us have to sign that one, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, which one?
You have that
Here.
for our signatures?
Is that it?
Oh, we just have to sign one of these?
Yeah, you saw.
Oh,
Here,
just
I'll sign mine and,
There's
and send it that way.
Okay.
How's
There you
that?
go. Michael signed his and sent it that way.
Oh.
That way I can keep this for the
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I already put this aside.
All right. In the Sheriff's Office Corrections, Keldon Peterson was selected from the most recent competitive recruiting process to backfill the vacant Deputy 1 under 21 position. That'll be our first one, effective March 20th, 2023.
Mm.
Could
you
explain what that is? I'm sorry. Yeah. So state legislature last year approved individuals under 21 between the ages of 19 to 21 to work inside of correctional facilities. The only caveat to that is they are not allowed to be weapons certified until after the age of 21. So what we will do is we will hire them on at a grade lower until they come to the age where they can get that certification, then they'll jump back up.
And so
cool.
do they have direct contact with inmates?
Yes and no. They have to be with someone at that time. Most of them usually go into like the control rooms and that kind of thing. But we will have them kind of ease into that because we want to train them for sure. But yeah, it's going to be exciting.
It's an awesome new program.
agree.
It's a great thing for law enforcement to come up and
Well,
and it starts them young, and sometimes they end up going and doing other things where we grab them before they get too
Absolutely.
far.
Well,
and challenges with recruitment and retention.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're only going to get, I think the max is going to be 3 for ours. There has to be a certain percentage,
Yeah.
so we don't have a lot, but I think we're planning on having 3. We've got another one in the works next month, hopefully, that's going to
Cool.
go through the
That's
background
great.
process. So, yeah. And so also in the Sheriff's Office Patrol, Tyler Snyder has completed all requirements to be promoted from a Deputy 2 to a Deputy 3, effective March 19th, 2023. And then in the Road Department, Garrett Bastian and Hazen Pettit have completed all requirements to be promoted from Road Maintenance 1 to Road Maintenance 2, effective March 19th, 2023 as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'll move for approval personnel items A and B
Second?
as stated.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Perfect. And then Section 47, it's been a topic of several discussions, last of which that took place in the department head meeting that was a couple weeks ago. We came to general consensus that we needed to have a jumping off point, which leads us to the telecommuting policy. We talked about it in January as well as, again, in the department head meeting. The underlying purpose is to ensure that all the offices in the county remain open during regular business hours. Not to have a standard precedent set to allow county employees a regular telecommuting. We're hoping with the passing of this that it will require a minimum of 2 days per week for the employees that have been approved. And then we also came to the consensus that we need to make sure that IT is signing off on these because it's a lot of work for the IT department to manage and make sure that it's safe. So that's another caveat to that. We also have a signature page that the employee is signing off saying that they will be doing the work. That's another worry that we've had. So we've incorporated all of that into this policy. Okay. And then I don't know if anybody had input. I don't know if anybody's come, but
Yeah. Does anybody have? I mean, we've kind of
We talked
beat
about it in
and beat
department
and
head
beat,
meeting.
didn't we?
we did.
Had a pretty good discussion.
Beat the dead
so-
horse.
The horse is dead, yeah.
Yep. All right.
I'll move for approval of 15, agenda item 15C, policy as stated by Jennifer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All approve. Aye.
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 Thank you so much. Pass. Motion passes. Carries. Thank you very much. County boards. Is there anything that anybody can think of?
I haven't heard of any.
No.
If not, chair declares this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Whew, let's go to lunch.
I